Okay, bump and okay, boom. Okay. All right, let's see. Preparing the live stream. Okay, here we go. Discussion. Final episode. Episode 8. Trial for Netflix. Well, all right. Hold on real quick. All right, so we should be live and all that good stuff too. All right, cool. See, here goes Yvonne. All right. All right, everybody. Thank you for coming. Let's see. Is the audio any better or is the microphone still doesn't sound good?
It sounds better.
Okay.
Yep. Audio's clean money.
Okay. All right. So, thank you everybody for coming. Glad you're here again on our final episode, um, episode 8, which was entitled Worst Case Scenario. All right. So this episode, once again, it opens up with, a bunch of B-roll and this type of stuff, but then it goes to a shot of them on the back porch, and mom's, messing with the flowers and stuff like that, right? Um, and them really discussing um Rollins had just won, right? And this is the in-between time. It's like what we're going through right now with Biden, where okay, the election's over, you won, but you ain't in office yet. So it was that interim between the election and when she gets in there, takes office, gets inaugurated in January after the new year. So everybody is just kind of talking about and discussing the Rollins win and the potential of what that means for the case and kind of the promise of a new uh fresh outlook on on criminal justice in general. And and so it was like a hopeful moment, right? um then it goes forward to Rosemary Scapicchio, and she also was talking about Rollins win and the implications that that could have on the case. And everybody is hopeful. What's she gonna do? Well, she could do this, she could do that. I don't know. She might do this, she might do that. But it was a moment of finally, with D.A. Conley gone and the last of his regime, because of course Pappas went to continue the mission for his short time. But there was hope. So then Adrian Walker, Boston Globe columnist, comes in and he is discussing and highlighting a lot of the different nuances that are at play as well, the political pressures and so on and so forth. And as he talks about, he's like, you know, you're the new DA coming in, and you potentially have this case, and now you do what the people want, and exonerate Sean or whatever, and of course, um, they're gonna say you let a cop killer go. So what DA, particularly a first DA, first term DA, just a couple of weeks or whatever into her tenure would have to deal with such a high profile case. So it is a lot of pressure at play, because of course had that happened, those people being the police unions and such would have really went banana cakes. um so this is the other cop guy. I forget his name, but the other cop guy, not Ed McNeely, but the other one, um where he also is alluding to, and almost it's like the threats. And once again, she hadn't even got in the office, and they're just like, this is crazy. She's gonna get in there. She's, it's just amazing how Trump like this stuff sounds like. You know, it's terrible. She's gonna get in there. Da, da, da. And I tell you, there's hell to pay. It sounds like all this kind of like, kind of, oh, well, you better not, this type of stuff. Um, and then finally it culminates into uh, um, his final statement, which is like, it's a bad thing. So, for a lot of these law enforcement people, just the election of Rachel Rollins before she even got into office, they viewed it as a bad thing, not part of, the democratic process, or, not like, hey, let's wait and see, let's, zada da da. They viewed Rachel Rollins' victory as a loss for them, right? And they viewed it as trouble on the horizon. So, boom. So then it goes back, then Sean is in the office with Rosemary, um, and Rosemary says, so what's the word on the street about Rachel? And he just says, people are saying that she's not an outsider, right? I mean, not she is an outsider. Pardon me, that she is an outsider. And so once again, just the freshness that uh uh you know the hope that represented, because finally we had somebody that was had a fresh lens, was not into that whole network of covering up, and was not one of the good old boys, right? So once again, it was all this hope. I can't really speak enough about how hopeful that moment that in time was. So then Rosemary gets down to brass tacks and says, well, listen, regardless of that, Rachel coming in anyway, we're gonna prep for trial anyway. You know what I mean? We still gonna we still gonna move forward and put our case together as best as we can. So, that's what um that's what began there. Prepping for the fourth trial, and once again contemplating what she may now do as she being Rachel Rollins, what Rachel Rollins may do as the new DA, because as a lawyer, Rosemary's case, you know, um, that now plays into strategy, right? You're not dealing with the same DA you was dealing with before, right? So, all right, so I think that's a good place right there to stop for a hot minute, and then we can get right into, because then after that'll be the next nice little chunky chunk. But any comments thus far?
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
Peace.
Go ahead, Marsha. I'll go after you.
thank you, Brother Randy. I just have a quick comment about, the pushback of Rachel Rollins getting into the DA office by the judicial system. Um, and it just echoed something I read about today about how she have to take Judge Mark Somerville to the Superior Court because he won't honor her suggestion to drop a charge against a defendant in a motor vehicle case because the judge's order, I guess a mess about the judge's violating some coronavirus rules or outlines that, people don't have to show up in court if they don't need to. And it's just the pushback even from the judges and, the political atmosphere in Boston altogether against Rachel Rollins.
Yeah, everybody has really it's been quite despicable from Professor Gross, from Commissioner Gross to the judges and whatnot. It seems like not only do they not like her and her politic, but as a black woman, I feel like what they're trying to do is kind of take her down a peg publicly. Like, we'll show you, how dare you. And it's kind of a public humiliating type of thing that seems to be going on. And it's really not cool. And I don't know if you remember the other DAs, the 4 DAs who like wrote a letter, like, chastising and attacking her. I mean, so she's had quite the bumpy ride.
Right.
And it just goes to speak to, her not only being black, because Ralph Martin was black. They didn't give him all these problems because he was going along with the program. You know what I mean?
Right.
She's going against the grain, so she is getting all sorts of hell, and piled on to that, the regular disrespect to black women.
But she's built for it, you know what I mean? And that's the challenge for them, because she survived these challenges. She already beat that judge once in Superior Court. And I think it's the struggle of, if you are a person of integrity, if we take just the humanity of it, she's a person of integrity. She knows what's up. She's trying to do better in the system, when for a lot of those white people at high level, their experience has been, there's the Ralph Martins that come in and go along. But he might have went along, but that dude was drunk in Wally's every week. So obviously, personally, ethically, he couldn't deal with it. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, but she could deal with it. So she is a threat to them. And I think they try to find ways.
I mean, they gave her the most subtle threat when it was saying that her taking this position is almost her like equivalent to her being God. Like they went that drastic with it. So that tells you a lot. I'm on my fault.
Right, that the whole thing of doing the issue with Sean is because they knew when she came, if she dealt with it, she would see the realities of it and she would handle it, so that dude would not have to be tried again, whether they had to dismiss her or whatever. She would have definitely did the political thing in a way that would benefit him, because those type of jobs, they're always political. It doesn't matter how good of a person you are, you always end up bending because there's some mofo that you got to deal with to check that's coming at you gully. You know what I mean? So then you got to bring it there sometimes, I think, sorry.
Yes. For me, what stood out in that segment, and I think in this segment in the beginning too, was when Rachel was when driving around and she got the word that Conley was going to resign. And did in your recap, did you get to that point yet?
That's what's right. That's what's right next.
All right, so I'm gonna leave that for now. I'll come back to that point. Then I don't want to go ahead of you, but yeah, I mean, I think that the statement that of course, that this is gonna be bad. It just goes to show. And then we got to always like think about, as we progress through this documentary, that we have these cops, making these statements. Like, they're making these statements not knowing that they're gonna be exposed before the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like in the backdrop of us looking at all the corruption in these 8 episodes, it's insane. Like, listening to them saying this stuff, like she's gonna be bad for Boston. This is bad for DIY, because you're afraid that crooked cops are going to be held accountable because, black folks are going to, and poor folks are going to get justice. We're going to look at cases where y'all bury dudes in jail with false evidence. Like, that's why it's going to be bad for Boston. So, each one of these dudes, these officers, these retired cops and whatnot that are on there commenting, they are guilty as hell. You know what I'm saying? In light of the documentary and that statement, saying, man, she's gonna be like God. That's showing you how they perceive themselves. See, they've been acting like God in taking people's life away. They've been acting like God in the way that they rule things and just, what I'm saying, will lock up a man innocently for 22 years. And he's not the only one. And we see in like the Keon Sprinkles and others, a bunch of people that have been railroaded in that time that are now getting justice because I think it was the Black Poets, Jamal, that had the song, The White Man Has a God Complex. And so, he's speaking from his reality. Now he's seeing a black woman and he's like, man, she's gonna be like God, or to counter all the stuff that y'all been doing. So that's what stood out.
What's that other saying? Ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, that one comment alone was so big because this is the same conversations they've been having about Kamala Harris and the fact that, well, Biden's about to die. Do y'all really know what that means? And that's the fear of this black woman having any kind of power. It was, how dare this black woman think she can play us? That was the message he was giving across. We the only ones that get to be judge, jury, executioner. Because that's what he said. He made that reference to that's what she's going to start doing. Like, how dare her? That's our job. Right. It was disgusting. So, yeah, good point for Slim on bringing that out.
They want us to be consumers, not producers.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, let me just let this person in. So right after that, yeah, then it goes to finding out, that Conley, resigning 3 months before the transition. Now that's some old, well, we wish Donald Trump would do that, but that's some old sucker, I'm taking my marbles,
Jay, was he running off to like a cushy job, or did he just
he went off to
griminess?
He went off to Mintz Levin, which is actually funny too, because Mintz Levin, which is a huge law firm, but they also too, they do a lot of like civil rights, and generally Mintz Levin is a very kind of good law firm that has done a lot of good work. I don't know how the hell, maybe they didn't check his resume how they got him there, but whatever. I don't see him to be a match over there. But in any event, yeah, Mintz Levin. But as you know, with jobs like that, he made a choice to leave. I mean, Mintz Levin would have waited another 3 months so you could finish up your business as the Suffolk County District Attorney. You know what I mean? To do a normal transition like grown-up adult people do, right? But Dan Conley and the only thing that you could say about it is good. We 3 months less of seeing him. Good. Get his face out of here. Great. Wonderful. So that's the only upside to it. But it was really a real punk way to do things, and it disrupted the transition. And hence, he put Pappas in the joint to now look here, you go fall on the sword. The general was a coward and left the battlefield and then told his flunky, they're gonna come kill you. All right, so left Pappas with 3 months left. And then now Pappas, let's see here. Well, he had to get appointed by the governor, right? So he gets appointed by the governor, right? Then they go to the scenes where they're showing Rachel Rawlins when she moves into Roxbury, right? And then Commissioner Gross comes over, gives her some advice on an alarm system, and they have some.
Hey, you know what? before we move to that, do you really think Conley went anywhere?
When you say
really,
went
you know
anywhere,
what I'm saying? He announced he was vacating his positions 3 months early. But did he really go anywhere? Was he really inaccessible? Was he really not running things vicariously through Pappas?
Oh no, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, come on.
Not just
like,
Pappas, but I would say a good portion of his office had a fierce loyalty to him. And I mean, and he ran his office like a iron ship. You know what I mean? So he had a very he's not a laid back type of leader. He had a very heavy-handed leadership style. And some folks admired him and liked him, those who were the full stormtroopers, and the ones that did not like him or whatever, they feared him. And once again, too, we should make this point. Old boy who is in trouble now that we've been talking about, Adam Foss, right? People are trying to get comment from like Rachel Rollins, but remember, he didn't work for Rachel Rollins. He worked for Dan Conley. And I remember actually when I met him, I joked with him. I was like, yo, Dan Conley let you work there and keep your dreads? And he and he was like, yeah, I'm not cutting them. I said, I can't believe it, because I was just amazed at that. But I just, it's funny because, this is a law and order guy who, and Adam was supposed to be a criminal justice reform guy. But this was not a warm and fuzzy type of regime here. So yeah, when he left, I'm sure he gave folks folders on, look, all right, fry him. You could do him little medium rare on him. You know what I mean? This, that, and I'm sure he had a whole hit list when he left out.
Doesn't it seem, for me, it seems like the Sean case was the reason why he did that. Like that was the reason why he pulled that stunt. And they alluded to it in the documentary. I think when he was being interviewed and the brother asked the question, was it the fear of Rachel Rollins coming in, that and dealing with the Sean Ellis case, as the reason, and it seems very clear, and so that shows how malicious, like they really are, and then when we see how that press conference played out, that's exactly what they wanted. Like there was no other big case like this that will cause him to leave office 3 months earlier so that they could pull this stunt and drop the case without exonerating him. So that just seems very clear that was the specific reason behind that little stunt that he pulled.
Oh, absolutely. It was sabotage. And it served twofold, because in the dropping it, they get to do a closing argument when they still ain't on trial to still, say he's guilty and whatnot. So the last thought in the public's mind is,
right.
Yeah, this trial's messed up, so we're not gonna move with the trial. But he's guilty, y'all. He's guilty, y'all. He's guilty, y'all. They had to say he's guilty 3 times, like Dr. Umar. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? So it's one of them things.
Hey, you gonna leave a good doctor alone, man. Come on.
3 times the charm.
Come on, man.
If you say it 3 times, it must be true.
Jamal, you crazy, man.
Maybe he could come here and do some psychological counseling with the BPD. Oh boy. But yeah, so then I just that I just want to do a little bit of a timeline, but we remember now the election, that's around November time, around this time, boom, election season, boom. So now Rachel is elected, boom. Now it's December 17th that Pappas announces the press conference. So this is very quickly after the election. You know what I mean? Within 30 days, Conley is out. I'm like, hey, I'm out of here. All right. And then Pappas announces the press conference on 12/17, which is, of course, right before Christmas. And anybody that knows anything about how they work, too, ain't generally right now at 12/17, ain't nothing going on. They already on their Christmas vacation. Okay. They nothing's going on. So the timing of this and everything, they literally were trying to sweep this and push this under the rug, and or if somehow, you know, Rachel would bring it up or whatever, you know, their last parting shot to try to take the jury pool. But okay, so, you know, that whole thing, he announces this press conference. Nobody knows what the hell it's about. Rosemary's, you know, on the phone trying to, you know, call her contacts, what's going on, you know, they find out it's definitely about Sean Ellis, you know, but they still don't know what's going to pop. And, you know, and can you imagine, you know, like the cartoons, you know, you just nervous, you know what I mean? Because you don't know if they might be, you know, they might be putting a warrant out for them. They could do anything. And, you know, for a guy like Sean to be in that position, you know, that is one of those crazy days, I'm sure. So all this is hanging over the head. And I think that once again, when he's on the phone, this is where the title of the episode comes in, because he's on the phone calling one of his people's like, yo, you know, yeah, there's a press conference, you know, well, what's it about? I don't know. Well, it could be a worst case scenario, because that's the pressure of what's hanging over the head. I don't think nobody was thinking it was going to be nothing good, particularly, you know what I mean, based on the way things had been going. You know, there was no expectation of they was going to do something good. And even this is sneaky, underhanded good. Because, you know, what you're supposed to say, nah, don't dismiss the case. But at the same time, you know, this was their way of wiggling out of it. So, of course, Sean gets a ride. You know, God bless his job. Of course, everybody's supportive. They know what's going on. So they're like, yo, you can bounce, whatever. He goes down to his lawyer's office. And then by the time he gets there, that's when they find out, yo, they're going to dismiss. And the relief, you know what I mean? The relief. And, you know, then, of course, the phone calls to moms and everybody else. And then, of course, we get to the press conference itself. And these weasels, you know, really copped out. And once again, like I say, they get an opportunity to make a closing statement that has no rebuttal. It's not like there's going to be a press conference and then, you know, you're right there next to the defense attorney, and after you say your thing, then the defense attorney says their thing. It doesn't work like that. You got the bully pulpit.
Didn't even tell them what was going on.
Exactly. You got the bully pulpit to craft your narrative the way you want. And it was probably, you know, not for nothing, it was better that they didn't, because, you know, knowing Rosemary a little bit, if she was in the audience there, she probably would have been like, bullshit. You know what I mean? She would have
most definitely.
She would have raised a little hell. You know what I mean? So, but the guy, you know, Pappas, the other dude, Zabin, and then of course our Commissioner Gross, right there.
Let me jump in real quick, Maul, because I wanted to mention, now that you're on this point. So all these characters that you're naming, actually, I know all of these guys because I used to work with them. So Pappas is he's a lifetime prosecutor. So his family, he's a West Roxbury guy. They own a bunch of gas stations on VFW Parkway. They own a bunch of appliance furniture, like refrigerator stores in West Roxbury, and he was actually involved in Jizz's case. So he's been involved with a family member of mine who did 20 years for a wrongful conviction. And I worked in the office with him. Zabin, one thing that struck me in the movie, and I got to talk to Rachel about this one. Rachel said, "I'm going to keep Zabin on," right? Now, when I was in the office, Dave Meyer was the head of homicide. He was the head DA. And Zabin was underneath him. So I used to work directly with Dave. Now, understand, here's what's so ironic about this series. Danny Keeler, back when I was there in 2004, he was so toxic that none of the DAs would handle any of his cases. The only DA that he would come to the office to meet is, guess who? Zabin. Him and Zabin are like buddy. Anytime he walked in that building, he could walk in Zabin's office and have an audience and present whatever cases he was working on and whatever new little finagling he was doing to get convictions. So like the fact that he's still there is just it's crazy that he's now has more power than he did years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
We need to, just like bad cops, we need to develop a bad prosecutor list. You know, if there are prosecutors that we know have been funky in the game, particularly if they're still in there, who have worked on some of these major
and I'll say this too. He mentioned another name, Pat Hagen. Good guy, real good. You know, solid, straight line dude. No nonsense. Mark Lee, I don't know him too well, but Pappas and Zabin, two of, you know, just real slime ballish, real West Roxbury pro police, whatever you want to call it. The fix is in anytime they're on a case. You know, and you could dig up their records. If you go back and look at the number of wrongful convictions, I promise you, Zabin is on anyone with Keeler. Zabin was the one who handled it.
I mean, as somebody who don't know any of these people, I mean, geez, these are some evil people. I mean, like they even them saying that they really didn't even say he wasn't guilty no more. They just kind of just went and just broke him. They made it so nasty and so distasteful. I never heard somebody talk about somebody so bad to explain to them how they're not guilty. I never heard that in my life, but that was the most disgusting thing I ever heard. And Gross, oh man, I don't know who any of y'all know him, but he's Uncle Ruckus in real life, for real, for real. I'm sorry, y'all, if that's any of y'all family members, but he's the worst person on earth.
Ross is disgusting. The way he was up there talking was horrible. Totally disgusting. It was, and I'm gonna just give you my quick Ross story. So back in 2004, when I was a homicide detective, I went to a crime scene, and here comes Willie Gross. I never met him before, so he comes over. This is in Fort Hill. He's putting his stuff on. He's coming over, and now the homicide detectives are clowning him. They're treating him like, you know, Goofy the clown, Homie the clown, because that's his personality. So some brothers come in and out of a house across the street from where the crime scene is. This guy committed suicide in his basement over in Fort Hill. He says in front of about 10 white people, I got to come back here later tonight and find out what's going on over there in that building, because he saw two black dudes come in and out. So this is my first introduction with this black dude who feels like if he sees a black guy come out of the building in the middle of the day, there's something illegal going on. Wow. So, you know, you can take
that said
that'll give you a sense of what kind of mentality Gross is working with.
Yeah, you know, going back, man, to the earlier scene when he visits Rachel's you know, apartment when she first moved in, and then y'all catch that little statement he made when she was on the bench. I mean, out in the balcony talking to the neighbor, and she's like, "Yeah, here's the police commissioner," and then I don't know if he got a text or something like that, and he's like, "Oh, y'all already put this out? Like, I'm getting hit from public relations." Like, did y'all catch that?
Yeah.
Like, what you supposed to be like? What did that mean? Like, you're not supposed to be seen with the new DA? Like, you afraid of public relations? Like, what was that? You know what I'm saying? Like, that was just a weird statement. But it you know, for me, and fill me in if I'm wrong, maybe I'm missing something, but it just seemed like kind of real scary. You know what I'm saying? Of taking a stand or being seen. Like, if being seen with the new DA is something that you got to worry about public relations about. You know, that was telling a lot. You know what I'm saying? Then the other point that I wanted to comment on, though, is going back to Rachel Rollins, is when she was in the car driving, and she got the announcement that the new DA, that Pappas was going to be coming in, and she said that, you know, she didn't want them to take on any major cases until she gets in, you know. And then it was like, well, you know, but what if he does? She said, well, you know, I'm gonna be a big girl about it. You know, he has the right to do that. I would hope that they don't, but he has the right to do it. But if he does, when I get in there on day one, we're gonna have to revisit that. And that's a key statement, because, you know, I think that we have to revisit because he did make a decision, right? He did handle a major case. right? And I think that that's something that we need to, push to be revisited.
Now, well, I think there was a big mutiny there, right? Because Pappas is not there anymore, is he?
I don't even know.
I was gonna say, well, I know that there was some level of mutiny that when, well, the two things. One, as any new person coming in, you're gonna fire a certain amount of people. You keep some, you're bringing some of your own people in, whatever. But there also too was a significant amount of people who were like the old diehards who, when Conley left, they submitted their resignations as well, and they all went off into private practice and whatever hell else they be doing. Um, um, but yeah, so that should be looked into too, because when she said her exact words, brother Randy, was she was like, yeah, because when I come in January 2nd, then we'll have a different conversation.
Right.
Right. And so now a dude who's sitting there in the corner like, I ain't trying to have no conversation. He might have put his resignation in and been out of there January 31st. I'm not gonna be here on the 2nd. Or maybe she fired him or what have you. I don't know. She certainly kept on, as Cornell mentioned, she certainly kept on other people who, she certainly didn't check with the community beforehand.
I just wanted to say something with Gross. I don't want us to leave something with him real quick. I just want everybody to pay attention to his aura as a black brother from Boston. How come none of us act like that? And he's the only one that acts just like Dan Conley and him. And he's a black guy. It's awkward, but yeah.
I mean, those of us, who've known him for years. I mean, not for nothing. This is the level of concern, and I don't want to dog him, too hard publicly. But let's just say that our politics, don't align in the way that he handles things and how he approaches his job as it relates to criminal justice and police reform. Too many times where it seems like the world and the community is going this way, and he's like, oh, but hey, what's over here right quick? You know what I mean? And it's like, yo, what are you doing, B? Come on, everybody's going this way, because if you notice, like, funny, with Netflix, it seems like he's very friendly with Rachel, and you got to be professional and hey, that type of thing. So, seems like very friendly. I don't think it was 2 weeks later where he was attacking her. You know what I mean? So, some of his first statements when he came in, he attacked judges, which is an old cops versus judges trope. We, it's not our fault. We lock them up. They let them out, then
company line, towing the company line.
Exactly. Then he attacked Rachel Rollins as a prosecutor on the same type of thing. It's not our fault. We get the guys with the guns and then they don't prosecute them and then they're back out on the streets and then they rape your cousin, and it's all this fear mongering that they do and just, and Gross, it is a shame because as a black man, first of all, he got that position because he is a black man, okay? Meaning that Marty needed a black guy, and so Marty picked that black guy, thinking that the community was behind and supportive of that black guy. Problem is, we never had that conversation. Marty didn't have that conversation with the community. There was no open conversation. And, Willie's a nice enough guy, but as a commissioner, I think that he's been disappointing on some of the statements that he's made in regards to criminal justice and police reform and things like this Netflix thing and all that. Look, I just want to share this with y'all right quick because it's what we were talking about while we were waiting here. Share this screen right quick so y'all can see this. All right, so y'all see that? So this is from that article that I was talking about earlier on the Boston Globe, where they've been doing a little series on scandals and what happens to police, which surprise, surprise is nothing. And so this is the statement that Gross actually just made about police misconduct and stuff like that. He makes this statement. Y'all read that right quick. 17-year pro from NC State. What he did here today, his career win number 130. So, okay, so here goes one of the problems. Y'all got that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here go one of the problems. When he says stuff like this, look, misconduct in our department will not be tolerated, okay? Or we are committed to identifying and investigating any conduct that does not uphold our values. So that would lead you to believe that he's saying, yo, we ain't tolerating no misconduct. We ain't tolerating no any conduct that does not uphold our values. And it's almost the same, because if y'all have heard him talk, he talks a lot about Black history. Oh, my thing went blurry. He talks about a lot about Black history and this, that, the other, and fancies himself a historian and da-da-da-da. So, you know, he talks about race and all this. So you talk about race and, you know, doing something about that, but then you've made statements that you've said you don't believe that there is racism on the BPD. Or you do something like this that says misconduct in our department will not be tolerated. We are committed to identifying and investigating any conduct that does not uphold our values. And yet you in the middle of a whole Netflix series about that. And you're like, nah, nothing to see here. Which way did he go? Which way did he go?
When did that article come out that you just read?
This article is, what's today? Yesterday.
Came out yesterday.
Yep. All right, that's listen, that's great. That's great. Right. So my comment on that part of it, you know, that was one of the most, you know, heartbreaking, disgusting part of this whole series, you know, was that press conference. And I was most disappointed in Ross's statement, because as a Black man, like, first of all, he did too much, right? He went hard, he went extra. He put the extra on it. Like, the other dudes wasn't even, like, he went and was like, yo, he's like basically he's
still guilty. He's still guilty.
Like, he's not innocent. He's not a good
remember,
dude. Like,
hold on. Let's go back. Remember before when Billy Evans was interviewed, right? Billy Evans didn't even go that hard.
Right.
Nope.
Right.
So that's like, crazy.
Going extra hard. Like, so that was the most and like I said, like we've been talking about during this whole series, like, you know, it's not like people didn't know that Mulligan was dirty and crooked, right? So it's like, so for him to make those statements, and so that's why I'm happy that, you know, that article you just read was just yesterday, because I feel like, you know, and this is the conversation we need to have today as we end the series. Like, we need to redress this, right? So now, in light of that statement, Ross, you need to come out and make another statement, because if you said you're talking about integrity and you don't stand by those, and you're going to persecute and terminate, you on a major Netflix series with a corrupt cop that, again, you know, was sticking up drug dealers, was keeping their drugs and their money, putting the drugs back in the streets, soliciting prostitutes, stealing state money. I mean, this is as dirty as it gets, right? And in light of all of that, you still felt the need to like throw dirt on this brother that was caught up in this investigation by all these crooked cops. I think he need to make a statement on that, in light of that statement that was made yesterday. You know what I'm saying?
I'll say this kind of to what I was saying before. You could pick any manner of matter of statements that he's made since, you know, being in, and one is going to say, I love red. Red is the best color. Then over here it'll be like blue. Blue is the best color. Like, it's crazy. Like, the statements are so incongruent, because even as recently, even, hold on, somebody. Oh, sorry, I had to mute you. But even recently with the whole police reform stuff, right? And all those press conferences about the police reform stuff, he's like, yeah, let's go. You know, we're committed to this. We're committed to that and all that. But it's like, it's what spiritual people talk about. It's when your actions don't match your words. You know what I'm saying? You know, you say one thing, but yet you do another. And oftentimes you say two different things oftentimes too. Right. So it's very contradictory. And yes, I do believe that not only him, but we probably need to have a conversation with Mayor Walsh to say, how is it that you have a vision to move the city forward for race or whatever, and you say we're going here for policing, but then some of your employees are talking about this over here. You see what I'm saying? It does. Everybody is not, for once, everybody is not touting the party line. It seems like there's two parties. So some people are talking about moving forward and advancing into modern day policing and, getting rid of all this corruption of the past. And other people are like, nah, we like it is. And they want to hold status quo, and the two can't work.
Right. And Mar, this was such an easy handoff for Gross because the feds already have a file on Mulligan. So are the feds lying? Is that file they have fake? Because he could have easily just said, "Yo, they're trying to make a distinction between what the other three were doing and what Mulligan was doing."
Right.
So whether they were doing it together, whether he was doing his own thing and he got his own gang and he was not really with them, it doesn't matter because it's been on the record that he was dirty, and he's going above and beyond to just try to toe this line. And it's just I don't see any. It's like he's one of those guys that you can't reform. There's no black reform in him. He's all the way gone.
Oh, and not for nothing. Speaking of that, because that just for anybody who has never seen the film Drop Squad, has anybody seen the film Drop Squad? Y'all seen the film Drop Squad? No.
No.
Randy, you haven't seen it either?
No, I haven't seen it.
I've seen it lots of times.
Oh, this is a must watch for you. Drop Squad.
I think you put me on to it. I've seen it.
Oh my God, that's one of the greatest films ever. So long story short, it's about a group of people, kind of like think like the A-Team or something like that. And let's say in the neighborhood, if you got, Willie the drug dealer or Snakey the pimp or, the sellout preacher or whatever, one day, you might be walking in an alley and they come and throw a pillowcase over your head, throw you in the van, and they would take you somewhere to a basement. And DROP stands for Deprogramming and Restoration of Pride. And they would like anti-brainwash you against all your crazy stuff. You selling these drugs. Why are you selling these drugs to your own people? And it's a great movie, but it speaks to the fact of how some of us have gone so far behind enemy lines. You know what I mean? Like, we kind of can't save everybody. And, the ones, it's almost like a super duper, what do you call it? A POW retrieval mission to get these people back. And I think that people like Willie, Commissioner Gross, are really entrenched with a lot of these ideas that he really believes this stuff. And he believes it on basis of a survival mechanism because it's what has served him. That he believes what has gotten him as far as he's gotten in life. So it's hard to tell somebody, hey, bro, everything that you believe for the past 50 years is complete bullshit and come with us.
But to that point, but Jamal, like, so, okay, I see where you're going with that, but in light of this case, like, so do you really think that he thinks that, because like, he was waxing like real, emotional, like, this, he's talking about Mulligan, like this dude was a father, he's a brother, he has family, like you way over sympathetic.
He was also a drug addict and a whoremonger.
Right. You know what I'm saying? So like, you lionizing him and making him a hero, you know what I'm saying, when you know that this other side. So like to your point, like, that Willie Gross really believes this because it worked for him, and like he just believes it, but he's not blind to the corruption.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? And so to turn the blind eye to the corruption, to sweep it under the rug, while at the same time you coming down with a 800-pound sledgehammer on a kid that was 19 at the time. If you willing to throw it all in and say, yo, this dude he wasn't innocent. He's not a good dude, right? But you're saying this in light of defending the honor of someone that is a bona fide slime ball.
Okay, so now here go me. Now this is where I get a little political and logical, and I'm gonna use a Elijah Muhammad example as well. I damn near I don't care what he believes, right? But politically, the structure that he works for, it's almost like Elijah Muhammad when he was dealing with Malcolm, and it's like, yo, man, the Kennedy situation is hot. Nobody say nothing about the Kennedy thing. All right, on the Kennedy. All right, and then Malcolm, of course, does the Kennedy thing, and now he has to get sat down because I don't think that there was any great amount of love for the Kennedys. It's just like, yo, That doesn't do us any favors. The timing ain't right. And it's the Mr. Rogers rule. Don't have anything nice to say nothing. You know, nobody would have faulted Willie. That's the one time he could have said, we have no comment at this time. You know, our thoughts are with the family, whatever. So my point is that I don't really care about his belief or if we're gonna change his mind or whatever. What I want him to understand is from a political standpoint that he needs to, in my opinion, he needs to stop making some of these political statements because he's not a politician and because it's messing up the administration he's working for. If the administration that you're working for is built their legacy or whatever, or they're talking about, you know, the environment, and then you're driving down the highway throwing soda cans out the window, that's not helping. You know what I mean? So it's just like, I really don't care about what Willie thinks or whatever. I just need him to stop making public statements that are contradictory to where public policy is moving. If he has those feelings in his heart, he should light a candle and say those things at home.
Yes, sir. But my point on it is that's true, but it's like those statements are basically like covering up corruption.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And that's the concerning part. Like we can't keep covering up and acting like, you know, corruption didn't happen, and basically hide like this is a criminal. Like if any of us would have did any of those things that Mulligan was charged, you never hear them talk about. You never hear him even mention nothing about, you know, Sean's family. Sean was a 19-year-old child. You know what I'm saying? He had a mother. He had a little sister that needed him. He had a family. So like, you know, you there's no sympathy for us, but yet you have all this sympathy for someone that you know is corrupt. And so in a position of power as a top cop, that's not acceptable. Okay, because so you got to police the police as well.
So we should ask a direct question of him then. I publicly, we should then, as a community, ask Willie Gross the question, separate questions, like 5 questions for the commissioner. Do you believe Mulligan was dirty? Do you believe Sarah was dirty? Do you believe Robinson was dirty? Do you believe Keeler is dirty? And we could throw another question in there for random. Why do you wear that hat? Whatever.
Do he still do those interviews on WGBH?
Yeah, he does. He does the Ask the Commissioner and whatever. I think that's once a month. Certainly. So yeah, that could be a good strategy. We could call up and ask him publicly.
Yeah. One of the things
was interesting. Oh, go ahead, see. My bad.
My fault. No, go ahead. I already spoke, man. You go.
You know what's interesting about him is that he is one of the few left on the force who's a Black officer who benefited from the advent of community policing in Boston, right? And that model that went, you know, all over the country. You know what I'm saying? We know where that came from, right? And the behavior of Mulligan and his compatriots is a direct contradiction to the community policing initiatives that he benefited from. You know what I'm saying? So when I hear him talk like how he be talking, it's like, you know your history. I know you know your history because I've heard you out of your mouth acknowledge it. So, I mean, do you really believe it, or are you just saying what needs to be said, which is convenient for the audience that you're speaking to? You know what I'm saying? Because it's like, you're the commissioner now. You're not the deputy superintendent in chief. You know what I'm saying? Your words are very, way more impactful and carry a lot more weight in a case like this. You know what I'm saying? Like, he just would have been better off just saying, you know, we stand by the DA's office. We'll support them any way we can. You know, under the law, no more comments. Like, he went way too far. All right, what about Sean's family? You know what I'm saying? What about you know what I mean? Sean's cousin who died, who was in the car with Sean and Terry Patterson. Like, nobody talks about that, who died 2 days later. You know what I'm saying? Like, if she didn't die, we wouldn't even be having this conversation, because she could possibly, you know what I mean, given the opportunity, exonerate Sean. Nah, we went to go buy Pampers. Like this, there's too many holes in this case for you to be talking like that. I mean, I don't know, man. This guy's an enigma wrapped in a puzzle under yeah, like
And
I don't know,
in a
man.
bubble gum wrapper.
Come on, man. We got to be better than that. We got to be better than that.
It was just just to what you were saying. It was just so disrespectful because like here we are, we're gonna trot it out that this dude is guilty when we're telling you we don't have the evidence to try to proceed, but we think we still think he's guilty, but we can't do it today. The evidence got old, the witness statements is stale, but we know in our heart of hearts he's guilty. It's like that's such, like you said, Jamal, such abuse of the power of their bully pulpit where they get the right to kind of trot out their narrative and use their official office to endorse it, even though they know and are telling you in that moment they don't have the evidence to prove it in a court of law and don't have confidence that they ever will or at this moment don't. And to bring up what Crystal was saying yesterday, I think it is kind of crazy how again they left it open like that where they're still, we think he's guilty and we might come back at it if we get a better witness or you know what I mean, find another thing. It's terrible.
This is how I see it. This is Whitey. The whole thing was a brilliant, evil scheme. That whole press conference and the fact that they had it. Number one, their biggest thing was they didn't want Rachel Rollins' hands on this with nobody else in her way. That's number one. That's why they did it when they did it. In my opinion, number two is they closed every door because now you got, everybody saying, well, he's still guilty, which makes totally no sense. You convicted him already 3 times, right? But he's still guilty, but we can't prove it again. You've convicted him 3 times and you can't prove it. What it would have done, it would have opened up a whole new wound with Rachel coming in, a whole new scope into all the wrongdoing and how many cases would have actually had to have been gone through if they really opened things up and looked through what went on and who did what in everybody's cases. And but the commissioner would have had to answer questions because he was around during those days. So you would have had to get his opinion on what was he doing. I don't know if he was a detective. I don't know. I know we threw that around the other night. Jamal was saying he might have been a detective. I don't know where he was at, but he was there. He was around. So for everybody to say, all right, let's close the door. And the last and final thing, it put a nail in the coffin of Sean trying to, or at least not a final nail, but trying to get the $100 million he deserves from the city, because he needed that. Oh, he's still guilty, but we're not going to put him back in jail. So, he should be thankful. So it was almost like, if they admitted what the truth was, that would have opened them up for $100 million and so many other people. It would have been a lot of people looking for money who deserve it. It would have been a lot of people whose trials would have had to been looked at, fine-tooth comb. Did it get any bigger than this? Who was involved? What are the cases? But think of this, if the way we watched Rosemary Scapicchio go through all of that evidence and be able to connect the dots. Imagine if they handed over to her or at some point handed over and she got a hold of all of the cases for everybody that was with these groups of detectives and how many more cops would have been involved and how many more people that got put away. I mean, they try to put a nail in a coffin and right now I would say that coffin is probably 99% closed, but what will open it is conversations like this and questions and keep poking around because that's the only way this is going to get found out. And the thing is, if you don't go through this, like Jamal was saying, the history is going to repeat itself. Yeah. I'm coming from a law enforcement perspective. I don't know anything particularly about this case except what I've seen but when the SJC started asking the questions and you watch the attorneys fold and that McNeely guy is as full of shit as a baby's diaper. I mean, are you kidding me? So this is all cover up and this is all, let's please put this to bed on their end.
Yeah. And you got to part of the mentality for when these folks go to court, when they go to try a case, if they happen to get a favorable judgment, like they win, they go back to the office, they wheel out all of the boxes of liquor, alcohol, and champagne, and they have a party. They do this every time they get it, they win a homicide case. So their mentality is us versus them. Yeah. You know, there's no winners, but they feel like they won whenever they get a favorable case and they send somebody to jail for 50 years.
I want to make a comment on another point too, like the way white supremacy worked. The point you was making earlier, I think, Jamal, how the mayor knew that they were getting a lot of pressure. The city has been getting a lot of pressure to get more Black representation, even a Black mayor, and we was pushing for a Black mayor, we was pushing for a Black police chief, you know what I'm saying? So they had to give us something. So we had to go, they felt like that's where the pressure's going. Black folks politically are growing and whatnot. So we had to put a Black cop in there. But here's the problem with white supremacy.
Hold on. Folks wanted Tito for mayor, but we got him for police commissioner.
I'm gonna leave that one right there, brother Jamal. But my point is this: like, white supremacy knows how to pick, you know what I'm saying, a Black person that is still gonna keep their agenda going. And for whoever needs to hear this, we need to know and understand that just because it's a Black face doesn't mean that person is in the best interest of the Black community. And oftentimes what racists do, right, and this is the kind of position we always put in, they'll get a Black person, but it's a Black person that's going to toe the company line. And so to that point, and we see, Gross in this case particularly towing the company line. And as you said, in other cases, other statements that he's made publicly, he's towing the company line. And my concern is that, he's the top cop. So you don't need to toe the company line. You the boss. You know what I'm saying? And when I raise that, people say, well, he still got to deal with, the police unions, and he still got to. That's the same thing. Remember the brother in this clip was saying about Rachel. He didn't think that she was gonna come out too strong because she still got to work with these detectives, and she don't want to smoke with the police union. Yeah, you could take that cowardly stance, but we can see that she hasn't taken that cowardly stance. You know what I'm saying? And it's just disappointing that our sisters, or our sister in particular, is showing more strength to stand up against the good old boy network than our brother in that same position. And so I wanted to make that statement that oftentimes they'll go with the safe Black, you know what I'm saying? Those, the Black that we know is not gonna really change nothing but keep the status quo. And so that's, very disappointing.
Right. And unfortunately, I think a man like Gross with a strong woman like Rachel, it's easy to put that dynamic there. So it becomes self-preservation, right? I got to save myself. I'm not really going to back the sister, even though I know. And did anyone confirm about the 80%?
I think today it doubled down. So Rosemary today referenced to it. She had the paper in her hand, and she was like, she got 81% of the vote. So it looks like it was
so she, she went in with that, and I think that's a lot of times why she's a threat. She's, as I typed earlier, she's willing to take a bullet, not dodge one, and so as a woman and as a Black woman, that's a threat.
I disagree.
Well, I mean, you can only do so much in that job.
Because there was I don't know if we could talk about this. I don't know if we could skip forward, but I mean, there was a part of that whole show. I was just as resilient for her, Crystal, as anybody else. And when Ed has spoke to her, I don't know if we could talk on that part, but like, Ed's one of those dudes that I watch him on I listen to him and stuff, and he's not a bad person, but he looks like a typical white guy, so he baits people. And long story short, I felt like she got into one of those spaces and she showed who she really was. And when it came down to defending our people, I feel like she wasn't defending our people either. I feel like that what Brother Randy said is just like a lot of these people, what I said yesterday too, is a lot of people who get in these positions and they get compromised and they don't really speak out, or they just go towards the agenda that's already been set. And I don't know. I understand what you're saying about Rachel, but I think she's not too far from Gross either, to be honest with you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Well, I think it's hard in that field because you have to pick and choose. You know what I mean? Like, I hear that, but then you see that she's taking on a judge who's clearly being racist twice. She's already beat him once with the Supreme Court. You know what I mean? So just that right there is a major threat that she even took that on.
Well, let me just add this to Brother Randy's point of the white supremacy thing. Another aspect of white supremacy, right, is when Black people, let it infect our minds, right? One thing is that you'll find folks who will often defend, right, a position that like is actually holding them down, right? So you're actually defending your oppressor, right? You have loyalty to a group of people that have no loyalty to you, because that loyalty is not returned. So you think you're choosing the thing like, yo, like I'm gonna align with the power structure because then the power structure is gonna take care of me and protect me. But it never does.
Right.
And in fact, your proximity to it, because now you live in the house, that means you the first to get your head bust. They ain't busting my head. I'm way out here in the fields. Because you live next to him, you the first to get your head bust. So for instance, with Gross throughout his career, I think he's said, he came on the force in like 1985. And I know for a fact that he was a beat cop around all the gang time and all that crack and all that type of thing. So he did a lot of beat cop stuff. But once again, to rise up to the ranks to where the position that he is, that means he is a trusted Black man to them, right? A trusted Black man. So by the time he got the position as number 2 cop, that is a reward for years of service. Now, he was faithful to that system. Yo, I'm gonna try to do my best, do my job, and blah, 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 do my duty to God and my country. Almost on some Boy Scout stuff. Like, you really believe in this stuff, right? And in that took a lot of capitulation. I know he's probably, taking a lot of crap, but, so you're rewarded, okay? But what happens as soon as he was named commissioner?
Right.
The stuff that came in from the white officers, the same ones that he often is defending, they don't feel the same about him.
Right.
So you'll defend these officers to the death. These officers got all sorts of jokes. We just joke about his hat and stuff. They calling you monkey. They calling you the N-word. They talking all this type of stuff.
More, even worse than that, from the reports we would get when he was the deputy, he used to get hazed and basically treated like a stepchild by officers who were underneath him.
I think when it came time for cars, they issued them a Prius or something, so they had this big old gigantic man in a little teeny tiny car or something. Like, I forget what it was, but it was something ridiculous. Like, the little stuff that people do, what we call microaggressions, right? And all this stuff at work. And, here you are, like you say, you got to take, part of my word, you got to take shit from your subordinates because you have a higher position than them, quote unquote, on the job, but they got to constantly remind you, I got a higher position than you in the social order.
Right, because you need me to get things done.
Okay? Right. You my boss, but I'm your boss.
Right.
You see,
in that dynamic of false loyalty. Like, I have to be loyalty because, I don't want them to think as a Black man that I'm not loyal, but it's like, no, like, I owe you nothing
now.
And if you've built, I was just gonna say, this is my last thing. And if you've built your fortune, like if you've built your hut in foreign lands, then you're like you can't go against the foreigners because you're so off camp now. You're surrounded. You took your bets and you bet on the wrong horse. Now you're entrenched and you're surrounded in enemy territory. You invested your whole life, your whole thing, and so of course you got to protect those people because they could snap their fingers and your whole career is over, but you can't do nothing to them.
I think that's the issue. That's the issue of perception, right? It's like that's the issue of perception. I think, and that's why I think like we need to pull up on bro and be like, listen, bro, like we understand if you had to do what you had to do to get in position. It's like the spook that sat by the door. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to tom your way into a situation to be able to help your people. That's the final part that needs to happen. Like help your people. And now that you're in the position, like you don't have to do that no more.
He
Like
don't have no desire to help. You just touched on it though, brother. He has no desire to help his people. That's the problem. That's the
He
issue.
said you gotta time your way into a position. Damn.
Yeah, that's listen.
That's deep.
That's what it is, man.
But it's real. That's real. That's real. That's
Our
real.
people
That's
got to
deep, but
time
it's
their way
real.
into a position, man. But when they get in that position, like you got to be able to flex at that point. Like, yo, we here now. You don't need to tap dance for nobody. You the top cop. Like, what they gonna do to you? You know what I'm saying? Like, and even if, and check this out, even if the only one that could really bring the smoke to him is the mayor, right? That's who's above him. But if you know, if you with your people, and the mayor gotta fear the people because he want to get reelected.
Now here's what's funny. Here's what's funny, and I used the Tito reference before, so I'll do it again. So what it is you see a dude dancing on the corner, right? And you come over and you're like, hey, brother, there's a better way. We don't have to dance no more. You don't have to dance for these people. And then he looks you right in your eye and he says, I like to dance.
Samuel Jackson and Django.
Real talk.
Yo, I truly believe there ain't nothing scarier. There's nothing scarier than I think the oppressors ain't even that scary. You get what I'm saying? Like
you're right. Number one enemy is that type.
That's what hurts me though, man. Cause for what it's worth, man. You
believe you can save everybody. I know, brother. I know.
I believe the brother I don't know, man. I thought he had good intentions, man. And
no.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, he say the right thing. You just gotta watch what he do.
I just expected more. You know what I'm saying? And I still do. I still hope for more. And yeah, you're right, Jamal. Like that's my assignment, right? We trying to save our people, man. And I'm not gonna close the door. I have hope, but we need to pull up. I'll say we, but I know some of y'all done gave up on the brother and so forth and so on. But no, for real, like what he needs is like, yo, bro, you don't have to do that no more. Like for real, like on a real talk, right? Like the only one above him is the mayor, right? And so, like, look at the mayor's already acquiescing. He did, Jamal, you've been pushing for this civilian review board forever. The mayor's like, yo, he don't want those smoke, all this Black Lives Matter marching and all this protests and criminal justice reform. They giving in right now, right? Because they fear the people. They see where the people are going. And even in the course of this conversation, we've been trying to juxtapose Ross with Rachel. And some of the justification that I heard was, well, Rachel was elected in with a mandate, over 80%, so she can be strong. Well, Ross, you can be strong because the only boss that you have is the mayor. And just like Rachel got 80%, right? The mayor's gonna have to fear that 80% that if we had a strong Black cop that's gonna stand up and really represent the community, we're gonna rock with you. And if the mayor's gonna fire you, that's smoke on him.
I don't want to get too biblical here, right? But there's a thing that talks about, a man shall not serve two masters, for either he will serve the one and despise the other, or he will despise one, serve the other. Okay, boom. So the thing is here, it's okay if a guy like Gross, I hate to be, like picking on him like this, but any person in his political position, right? So yes, the mayor is his boss, but the question is, who do you fear more? The mayor, who could change at any moment, or the people that you work with and the unions and all that. So I think really while he works for the mayor, I believe that his true allegiance and the people who he's really speaking to and the people who he's really ultimately afraid of is the people that he works for. So, the BPD, because what has happened is there were times where, like I said, the mayor has come out and said an edict and said, the sky is blue. Oh no, look, I don't even need to be vague and do an analogy. No, the mayor comes out on Monday and does a press conference and says, we are doing racism as a public health crisis now. We are eradicating racism throughout thing, and with racism in the Boston Police Department and all of that. He has his own statement and makes his own statement and says there is no racism in the Boston Police Department.
And that's the thing, like, why? Why would you do that? It don't make no sense.
Because he believes that. That's what I'm saying. Because he believes that. So I think he's more beholden to the blue thing than even his own boss, because that type of talk can get you in trouble with your own. You just directly contradicted the stated goals and the direction of where the administration is moving, but you're not moving in step with that. You're marching to the blue, and that is exactly what I'm talking about. And you know, it is a heck of a position to be in. You know what I mean?
It's a rough assignment, because you know, I would love to hear from him. You know what I'm saying? With no cap, why does he think that his position is that political? Like, I get it. You get appointed by the mayor, right? There's a certain amount of politics in it, but it ain't that political. You're not getting votes. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you the top cop. Like, you have veto power. You know what I mean? The only one you worried about is really the mayor, and making sure that the people are, you know, have confidence in the police department and their ability to do their job.
And why not for nothing, if he leaves or got fired, no person who was the Boston police commissioner has left here and made less than $300,000 ever. Either way, you know, if it gets that hot, you could do the black thing and say, hey, listen, y'all, this is getting too hot for me and my black thing. I still gotta get invited to the cookout, and you know what I mean? My aunt ain't talking.
Come on now.
Stuff. I eject and go get you a little $300,000 job somewhere. You know, because at some point, what's it worth?
Yeah.
It's funny because he's probably think he's doing it for his people. He's probably think he's making these political statements because he's a black commissioner. That's the funniest thing about all of this.
Well, we got to let them know in no uncertain terms, bro. That's not it. You missed the mark totally. You know what I'm saying? And to the point you was making, Jamal, you know, which is a good point. It's probably the case, right? That he fears more the people that work under him, which is a crazy dynamic. How can you fear more the people that work under you than the one that you work under, and the people in the community that you're supposed to serve?
Hey, because they got guns and they be doing real dirt.
Right. And right. Well, you know, and that's the thing. And I hate, you know, like, damn, is it really that? Is it you just scary like that? Like, you really that scary? Like, imagine you being in that position, Jamal, any of us in here. Like, we would love to kick these racists backside. We would love to fire they behind. We would love to, like, come down on these slime balls that's been doing our people wrong for all these years. Like, we would love to come down on those that haze them for all these years, right? That clown them and say these racist things. Like, he's literally empowered. He can whip their backside. He can do something about it, and chooses not to. And that's not like that, bro. If you hearing this or this gets back to you, like, you don't have to do that, man.
Yeah, you don't have to be that. You don't have to be that political.
There's a group of about five white cops, all Irish, who run the BPD, and Gross is not in that group.
That's crazy, man.
I feel you, brother Randy. If we could recover him, which is I don't know, but if we could recover him, man, that would be great. I hope somebody do tell him, like, man, you ain't got to do this.
Y'all should reach out to him on some brotherhood thing, and, like, you know, just, you know how sometimes you got to reach out to folks and, like, see them where they at. So, like, pick something, like, you know, that he like or something. Y'all should talk and, like, go. Why don't y'all take him hat shopping? You know, because y'all
don't laugh at him, please.
I'm saying y'all brims be Christy. His be all kind of,
yo, you know what,
floppy, and you know what I'm saying.
Yo, man, let me say this though too. A big shout out. I peep brother Daniel X and brother Newbie in the courthouse scene, holding brother Sean down. So yeah, you know why he's always on the scene.
Absolutely,
yes,
absolutely. Yep. All right, so hey, let's move on, because not for nothing, And not for nothing, as you said, if this gets back to him, and I'm sure something will, and folks know, on the one hand, it's almost like, cracking, but folks ain't disrespectful. Ain't nobody gonna talk bad about your mama, and you know what I mean? They'll call names and nothing like that. But it is chopping up a political figure. But just like when I first watched it, I think that what he and others need to know is that moment was like, oh, people were like, yo, that was like a moment. So like henceforth, look how much time we've spent talking about it. That was a wow moment. That was a big deal. So yeah, so we stopped there. Gross said Sean Ellis is culpable. All right. So then they
didn't talk to her. They didn't talk to Sean's team.
Exactly right.
Like and that never happens. Like
right.
Like you at least talk to the lawyer. All right, we about to go. We about to have a press conference about you. This is what's getting ready to happen. They didn't even do that.
Right.
And they didn't even invite him. That was crazy.
And not for nothing, though, because of the type of lawyer that she is, the level of prominence she has, she was able to, as you see, just do her own damn press conference, the reaction video basically after, you know what I mean? So boom, then the press conference in her office. And then another scene, there's been a couple, because this is a heavy documentary, as folks know, but then there's been a couple of things that where you just like, it gives you that, you cheering for the human spirit type of thing. And when just, when he was making his phone calls, you know what I'm saying? And just, yo, you know what I mean? Yo, what's good? Yo, doing his phone calls and whatnot. It was a beautiful, thing, and which continued to then going home and celebrating again. One thing that's a recurring theme throughout this is, this is a family guy. All them years that was taken from him, and he gets out. What's he want to do? Go to the nightclub and see if he can get 50 women and different things. He wants to be at home with mama and sis and his girl, and you know what I mean, and like trying to do his little pour. I got to teach him a better technique. He was trying to do some joint compound with his finger on the wall, and you know what I mean. But this is a family guy. This dude is a family dude, salt of the earth, home. And so all of these moments where there was, I talk about this a lot, but where there was triumph or tragedy. In moments of triumph, he's with his peoples. In moments of tragedy, he's with his peoples. This is a family guy, right? So
and there's two more. Let me just add to what you're saying, because even though Sean has a distinct stutter sometimes when he talks, the dude is speaking brilliantly. If you would just, ignore the stutter and listen to the content of what he's saying, he's damn near brilliant. And nobody really brings that point home, because he, like, the way he delivers what he's feeling, the situation and what he's going through, and he's thinking it through in his head, but and the delivery may be a little choppy, but it's all gems.
And not for nothing too, he really because being Brother Jamal, we were talking about this the other night.
Yeah.
I mean, he really, I think has it mastered almost to like 90%, and no different than, hey, look, we about to have a stutterer in the White House, right? As soon as Donald Trump pack his shit up, you know what I mean? But so, people through speech therapy and all that type of thing, people and he got his thing damn near 90-95% mastered. I mean, has no problem communicating his thoughts, and then two, not just the words that we use and all this. And I study this stuff as a poet and a rapper and all this, not just the words that we use and things, but the things that he's saying when he talks too. He's talking emotional stuff too. He's talking about feelings and like love and like forgiveness and empathy. I mean, this dude, is like if we had like local Nobel Peace Prizes or some shit like that, you know what I mean? Like this dude, he's talking on some like, some Dalai Lama type shit. You know what I mean? Very, very serene and very focused in his words and so on and so forth. So yes, despite the delivery, which is only now, 5% off perfection due to his own moving through it.
I also want to add that when he was talking about his case, I seen the development as he was like going through the case with this Scaspicio. I never could say the name right, but as he's going through the case with his lawyer, I seen him develop like a mindset. Like he started knowing his case just as good as she knew his case. So it's like even breaking it down and everything when he was talking on Greater Boston, he was talking about his case very well. And for a guy with speech impediment, I mean, this man was very knowledgeable.
He's half a lawyer. He's a legal researcher. You know what I mean? All these things by now.
Motivational speaker too.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's, you know, so
I was listening to there was a Nas song playing earlier on the radio, and it reminded me of Sean. He said, "If I'd be Ivy League if America played fair." That's really what a lot of black men have to deal with.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. He's very intelligent.
Yeah, he is.
Very intelligent.
I mean, that was the God name, right? Scientific, right?
Scientific. That's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, sir.
And he built this, and you know what I'm saying? And he did a certain amount of personal development in and around his case, where, you know, this documentary really highlights it. Until Rosemary, he didn't really have a whole lot of help.
Yeah. Well, let me say this too, Doc. You know
what I'm saying?
Coming in on this whole like piece with Sean, like, yo, there's no doubt Sean is a very deep brother. He's a very like cerebral type of dude. He, don't let the stuttering fool you. And there's certain times when he's building on a situation, like sometimes he don't even stutter. Like when he's in his flow, when he's building, But he is a real deep brother, very spiritual, very analytical, has a very mathematical mind. That's why, again, his God name was scientific, and so I wanted to say that. Then on the other side, very, very active. Like I said, when he was in prison, like he pushed the lawsuit, man, to get the nation of gods and earth to be acknowledged. You know what I'm saying? As an established religion, which, when I first came into the DOC, as a chaplain, they was labeling the
Oh, no. Hold on. I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm sorry. No. Hold on. I'm sorry. I muted you by accident. I hit the wrong button. Unmute yourself. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. I hit the wrong button. I'm sorry.
You said you were saying they labeled.
Yeah. When I, the DOC had labeled the Nation of Gods and Earth, the 5%ers, as a security threat group. So like Sean on his own crafted the legal argument and won, so that now that the brothers that are NGE can celebrate their faith. They could have their lessons and space and time. So that just speaks to the brother, like you're dealing with a great mind. So I just want to add on that point y'all was making.
Absolutely. All right, so after the celebration, then it went to the haircut. And that scene, that was the barbershop right in Grove Hall, right?
Yeah, Mattapan's Finest.
Oh, it was still Mattapan's Finest at that time?
Yes.
Okay. Boom, gets his hair cut. And of course, we saw the brothers out there doing their service, pumping the final call out there as per usual. And then now it's the day after. Now it's December 18th, because remember, the press conference just happened on December 17th. So now it's the day after, the 18th, and now it's GPS removal time. You know what I mean? And so he goes to get the GPS removed. And remember now too, this is still 3 weeks before Rachel Rollins is like sworn in. And I got a bunch of GPS jokes, because first of all, my brother was on it, with the ankle sock and all that, because that thing, it's just such an uncomfortable device. You understand what I'm saying? To keep that on, you know what I mean, and have to shower and this and that. And it was created for white people because for black people, we like lotion and stuff like that. It'll get you all ashy, mess your skin up. You have like a band around your skin of just like ashiness right there, where it just tore your skin up.
So Sean had to wear that for 3 years?
That's what I'm saying.
What the fuck? Really?
And I got questions like, can you go in once a month and change the strap? You know what I'm saying? That thing was funkier than a monkey. Listen, good riddance to that thing. And not for nothing too. Of course, who wouldn't? And not for nothing too. this is I'll make this little point. Slavery, thank God, you see some of these movies now, space age, technology and whatnot. Thank God that slavery did happen in the goddamn 1700s and whatnot. Because if this white man had the technology that he has now during slavery, all this digital tracking and bop, and, a chip under your skin and boop, boop, boop. I mean, it really, so to me, this is, people obviously make the correlation between slavery and, the criminal justice system and whatnot. This is one of those things, because what it says is you owe us this. So in lieu of this piece of paper that you owe us, you are free to go to roam about the universe, but we have a tag on you. Literally, like what we do in the ocean, you tag a shark, or these people out there in tagging moose or something. Can you imagine as a human to be tagged, to be accounted for? And so that is a level of, I think, dehumanization that, see, and it's crazy because people let that one slide because obviously it beats the other option, right? So I bet a whole bunch of brothers who are locked up would be like, shit, give me 2 ankle bracelets. You know what I mean? Right? But the fact of the matter is that it's still part of that same process that has you documented and cataloged, like the people in Walmart running up and down the aisles, boop, scanning, boop, okay, boop, yep, aisle 13, dishwasher liquid, boop, you a product, you a commodity, yeah, property, state property. So it's that whole thing is just very disgusting. So I can only imagine getting the GPS, and then I'll make a Muslim joke, because you join the Nation of Islam, you get out of jail, you get the GPS removed, and then you can't even smoke a spliff or have a drink. You know what I mean? Like, that would have been a night I would have been popping a bottle of Moet, some Hennessy, some Heineken, and definitely I would have had to smoke me a spliff. Listen. But yeah, so I can't imagine that level of just feeling like, whoo, and just, you know what I mean? And you can see him, of course, once again, at home, doing all his renditions of his little dances. I think I saw the funky chicken in there, you know what I mean? And some other things. But it just, once again, that's some of the moments of this thing where it's like, that's the hero's moment. That's Rocky running up the stairs with the music going, you know what I mean? Boom. So okay, now, so of course, as we know, what the press conference did 3 weeks before Rachel Rollins comes in, yes, because they did not want to get her little hands on it. But what it does is, of course, that stops the investigation cold, so it prevents them from having to, look at any more leads or anything like that. Kevin Cullen from the Boston Globe, he makes the case that says, everybody got played, basically. Nobody got justice. If you're Rosemary Scapicchio and you're the hotshot lawyer, you wanted that moment, you wanted that trial so you could kick their ass in public, slam dunk, reverse 360 on them, and then, you know what I mean, and then grab your gonads and walk out, right? And so she lost that opportunity, right? If you're Sean, of course, you want to be motherfucking exonerated, not just let go, but they have to admit, I did not do that shit. And not only did I not do that shit, but y'all planted all this evidence, the witnesses. It would open up the whole thing for, all the corruption, the all the connections with that cop and every other cop and da-da-da-da. So Sean is cheated. And then too, if you're the Mulligan family, as we said before, I guess they love that old son of a bitch. You know what I'm gonna say it because, whatever, but everybody gotta love somebody, you know what I mean? So he was a decrepit guy, but he had a family too. And so that family that loved him, they got played too, because you still don't know who shot your loved one in the face. All right. And because of how decrepit he was, you may never know, because the list might be 20 people long. That's how decrepit he was.
I don't even think they would have. And that was a great statement by that guy. I think that was an amazing statement. But one thing I could say is that I don't think they would have been happy. They wanted that black guy to be the shooter. They would not want to hear a cop was killed by a cop or a detective was killed by a detective. They wouldn't want to hear that. I think they wanted Sean Ellis to be guilty, and that was the only way they would be happy.
Well, let's put it like
and not
this.
to forget also Terry Patterson, he had to plead out to manslaughter. He has that on his record for the rest of his life, possibly until they exonerate him.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, well, and that's so. And he took that plea. And once again, he took that plea with the condition of, as you're going out the door, you need to say that Sean was the shooter. So, you know, that's a tough position to be in or whatever. I mean, you know, I would like to stand here now and be like, yo, they couldn't get me to say nothing like that. And I really do believe that I would not do that. But, you know, I ain't never been faced with
2 years is a long time.
Yeah, I never been faced with no situation like that. But by the time they're offering you a deal like that, they already know the case is dirty. And you look, if I did 23 at that point, I'm like, what's another 2? You know what I mean? To do it right. But that's just me. And once again, and I'm talking crap because I've never been faced with that situation. It's a hell of a situation. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. But the fact of the matter is that in order for him to take his plea deal, him going out, he had to finger Sean on the way out and say that he was the shooter. All right. Next shot goes to Philip Martin. And once again, we talked about him a little bit more, but I really, I like Philip Martin. He's a good journalist and all that. And in this, there were a lot of portions because he was doing so much work around it or whatnot that he almost became kind of like a co-narrator in it because they were using his voice so much. And he has a great voice, and he's a radio guy and a TV guy, great journalist. And apparently from this documentary, he's also a part-time sweater model because he has some fly sweaters on up in there. Philip Martin did. All right. So then we get to the point of back to our good old pal, Lucifer, Satan himself, Mr. Ed McNeely. So then Ed McNeely says, there's no corruption, no cover-up. This is a clean case. And once again, as we've said before, once again, logically, I don't care what people be saying or what they think. In fact, it's telling. So the fact that he has said that then, and from the previous clips from before, he said, you will not find a cleaner case than the Mulligan case. Okay, cool. You believe that? Absolutely, I do. You stand by that? Absolutely, I do. Pull up every case this guy's ever worked on in his entire life, please.
Yeah.
Because if you think that's clean and you want to stand by that, that's your definition of clean, Jack. Like, did you see the documentary that you're in? Do you know that, like, like, do you hear the words that are coming out of your mouth? You know what I mean? Like, we have to get some sort of thing where I don't care what craziness these people believe, but at some point it needs to be investigated and vetted. And I hope that was somebody blowing their nose. And
did it say if he's retired or not?
It didn't. I think it did. He's retired. He's the former head of detectives.
Okay.
I believe he's retired, but we'll find out again. All right, but a clean case. Okay, so that just right there, any cop at this point who is gonna swear that was a clean case, whatever, that to us should just be reasonable doubt. For now, that would call all their cases into question.
And Jamal, I would say, man, to jot that down, right, as a follow-up, like whatever follow-up we do, like we need to we need to ask that question. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that has to be addressed. If you're saying
his whole objectivity is in question.
Yeah, but your point is you got an excellent point, Jamal. Like if you're saying this was the cleanest case, we need to open up. This was the cleanest one, then we need to see what the other ones look like. That's real.
If R. Kelly gets caught messing with a 16-year-old girl, and I tell y'all, I don't see nothing wrong with that, whatnot, wouldn't y'all then be like, we need to think about who Jamal be dating? Right. If you don't think there's nothing wrong with that, who are you smashing?
I mean, and not for nothing on top of that too, it's just how hard he went to declare that this was a clean, crystal clean case, and it just so happens that all these dirty detectives worked out of your division and made all kinds of money and had the DA on their side and all the leadership on their side, and it was just utterly crystal clear, clearer than anything you like. I'm sure if he's a homicide detective, he must have had some slam dunk kit, where you actually caught the guy with real physical evidence or got a real confess, you know what I mean? Had somebody confess and had physical evidence, whatever. For this to be the most clear case, it's just such clear hyperbole that like I wonder what he's covering up. You know what I mean?
I think he was the plug
He was
because
I
I'm
think he
trying to
was
tell you.
complicit in that. And
If,
I think he was in charge.
that's what I'm saying. If you were the captain, like I said, any captain, obviously, if he was the captain and them other people were underneath him, that means he's a couple years older than them. It's like he's the senior in high school, they were the freshmen. Okay. So he's some years older than them. And all them guys, when they come on, when you come on as a cop, it's like that Denzel Washington flick. The cop gets you in the car, they show you the ropes, you know what I'm saying? Whatever, they might fuck with you or whatever. But the whole point is that I believe that everything that they were doing on the job, they saw and learned from their predecessors. And based on his rank and whatnot, he would be one of their predecessors. So questions to like Ed McNeely is if he ever messed with you ever messed with a hoe? You ever took some dope from a drug dealer? What I'm getting mad background. Okay, hopefully that's cut it off. But so the point being is that, yeah, I believe that the captain, certainly, at the very least, let's say he's innocent. If he's innocent, his only motivation is saying, no, there was no problem here because I was the captain and we ran a clean unit and I'm the best. And So that could be a pure motivation, just like if he was not dirty and he is just averse to admitting that there was anything funky going on under his watch. The other thing is, which is likely more probable, is the fact that, of course, he knew what was going down and he was down with it. And a lot of them dudes probably learned some of the tricks of the trade and literally some of the tricks of the trade, you know what I mean, from him. Have you ever got your, a little oral sex on duty? Have you ever engaged with a prostitute or an underage girl? Have you shaken down a drug dealer? Have you taken money? Have you busted a poker game and took all the money? Whatever. So all those type of behaviors were going on the BPD for a long time. And once again, for Ed McNeely to excel in the department at that time, I would bet all my money that he had some dirt on him too, because if you work at the fish market, you come home smelling like fish.
Well,
he seems more. Oh, sorry.
If the police department is like,
oh, yeah, you did that. I didn't do that one.
No, if the police department is like a gang, then he would be the gang leader.
Yeah, but he seems like a lieutenant or capo. That's the opportunist. He seemed like he's the dude that knows where the body's buried, so he doesn't care. So he'll do the movie anyway, because nobody's gonna come after him. Because if anyone comes after him, everyone goes down. He seemed very cocky, very confident.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy that says, cocaine, schmocaine.
I believe all these guys, especially at the top level, if a psychiatrist or psychologist was to do a profile, they have like some type of sociopathy issues.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, once again, and actually, Crystal, you probably better to speak to that because Crystal is a mental health professional. But yeah, like this, and what is it too? It's called like cognitive dissonance.
Yes.
Gaslighting.
Yeah, absolutely.
All of that. I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a certain. I feel
narcissism at its worst.
To go into a job like that, like there are some what we call antisocial, sociopathic things, and power feeds that. And the more you get access to it, and the more people overlook it, the more in your mind the more powerful you are. And then in the absence of people actually standing up to you and challenging that in a group way, you think you're untouchable. You know, Mulligan thought he was untouchable. And everybody, there's no way, you know, as a street worker, one of the things, like, you know, the word in the hood is definitely more than the word of what the police officers and stuff had. And everybody knew he was dirty. So there's no way that police didn't. And like I said, I just feel like it did go to the top. McNeely, I feel, was a part of it, which is why I feel he could speak so cavalierly. Because somebody that was really in it and really dirty wouldn't really be going on Netflix if they didn't have the blessings or the blackmailing of the people above them.
It's narcissism at its worst.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's what it is. It's like that narcissism has bled into an extreme sense of entitlement that because I am who I am, right?
Yeah.
And I said what I said, that it's the truth, and you should believe me, you better believe me.
Right. And I'm a white guy.
Saying?
And not for nothing. And what you gonna do if you don't? Because it's also a certain level of untouchability, like what Donald Trump said. I could shoot somebody in Times Square and get away with it. You know, they really feel above the law, and it's a mad combination of all that psychopath, sociopath, all the cognitive mixed with white privilege and you know the white male stuff. A lot of these guys, as we know, you know, the old stereotype is most cops got beat up when they were in school, and you know, so there's a Napoleon complex, little man syndrome. There's, you know,
but also,
dare I say, penis envy as well, where they get to be the cowboys to come into our communities and run and act tough guy over the men, black men, who they normally would fear under any other circumstance, in an athletic circumstance, in a regular circumstance. But now two white guys in a car can jump out on a block, you know, of black tough guy. Hey, get against the wall and whatnot. And yeah, it's all about power and, you know, the whole, you know, swinging phallic symbols and all that type of thing. And they get caught up in that adrenaline. And, you know, adrenaline and cocaine is a hell of a drug.
And you are so correct with that. And, you know, the sad thing is that Donald Trump made that statement because he knows in some aspect it is true. He could. A rich white dude could kill someone in Times Square and get away with it. Why? Because poor white dudes in rural areas have killed black people and get away with it. So he knows that he can do that. And I mean, narcissistic personality disorder is very hard. And also another thing sometimes that a lot of people in positions have, borderline personality disorder, which is really even hard because a lot of their behavior looks functional and looks like it makes sense, you know, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Brother Randy? They drunk off their own whack juice?
Yeah, they drunk off their own whack juice, but you know, it's not an anomaly, right? Like, you know, we talking like, you know, Mulligan was, you know, an outlier, and that's just not the case, right? Like, so and this is why they can come out and defend them that way, is because this is what they did. So when you talk about this retired police, you know, detective and whatnot, and he said, "Nah, clean K9," you know, they so dismissive of it because this is how they get down. You know what I'm saying? Mulligan was not an anomaly. So all the other corrupt cops, all the other cops that do the same thing, of course they're gonna speak, you know what I'm saying, highly about him, and they're gonna be dismissive about what he did because, you know, this is what they do. This is how they get down.
In fact, the good cop is the outlier, because the ones that say, you know, Mulligan was dirty, I didn't like him, I avoided him. They would have see all the other ones too, even the ones who, because a lot of people didn't like him, but they didn't like him too, was like some envy thing. Because they really were envious. He had all the chicks, he had the little Corvette, you know, he was the hot shot cop. I forget when they were trying to describe him early on, like, you know, he was a snazzy dresser and this, and he was a cool guy. And then they showed the pictures, and this dude looked like every bad B-list extra on every bad 80s show I ever saw in life. his old crazy hair, and you know what I mean? Look, it was horrible. And I'm like, I don't know who told him he had swag. But, you know, for those folks, they were kind of envious of him, you know, the condos, the chicks, the Corvette, this, that. And so even if they didn't like him, it was like they didn't like him because they coveted, they wanted what he had.
That's
you know. So they thought that those things were cool because it's like, man, he be stealing a lot of money from drug dealers. Wish I could steal money from drug dealers like that. You know what I mean? It was an envy position in a lot of these cases because they knew how he got the Corvette. They knew how he had all them condos and all that type of stuff. And that's why it was the gossip of the station, because they were envious and jealous and they wanted it for themselves. So everybody knew he was dirty. And it wasn't, look, some people have accused me of being jealous of them, you know, local leadership here. And I find it a funny point because if I think that you do something that is stupid, right? And like, you know, then how am I jealous to that? It's a behavior that that's a behavior that I don't want to emulate. I don't want that. So in the police force, a lot of people actually found his behaviors to be something to emulate. That's how you move on up in the world. That's how you get this guap. So they were looking at that like the come up, and they were looking at themselves as deficient because like, man, how I ain't got no hustle like that. Man, what's he doing over there? Even if they didn't like him, it was about like, damn, man, why ain't my thing moving like that?
Remember the dude say he come in the court in flip-flops and in shorts and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Like
they was mad.
Yeah, they mad because they sitting there working, and this dude, he coming in there in flip-flops. He's just chilling
with some
coming
coffees in and out.
You know,
and the only ones who weren't mad about not being able to participate in and of it themselves were the ones who were completely devoid of power, like the internal corruption people who were like, man, we had a slam dunk case on this dude and they just took it away from us and we couldn't do anything about it. It's like, those guys are just spinning their wheels, and it's like, man, what you feel, in some ways you feel for the quote unquote good cop, because it's like there's nothing for them to do in that system, you know what I mean?
Yep. It's from the top down. You know, they quieted them.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's move on and listen to it, because when I move on here, this is about to be the last section, and it's 9:08. There's a lot of folks on here tonight who have not spoken, and as always, I'm encouraging folks to speak. You know, so I really want to make sure folks chime in on this last segment, and because after we do the last segment, we'll chop that up. Then we're about to get into, you know, our kind of wrap up discussion, and y'all know how we break it out. But, you know, if you have not spoken, particularly if you haven't spoken this whole series or whatnot, I just want to encourage people. It's not pressure, it's encouragement, because we're trying to have a community discussion, and that is only, you know, the gumbo is only made better by, you know, all the ingredients that everybody brings. So when you sit at the table, please throw your ingredient in the pot too. Don't be stingy. You know what I mean? All right, so boom, now it moves forward. Remember, we were at, he just got the bracelet removed the day after the press conference. So that was December 18th. And we went through all that thing, but so now here we are, okay. And then he was like, yo, you know, Christmas come early, but now here you go, the day after New Year's, right? January 2nd, Rachel Rollins is sworn in. Okay. And of course, that's a big momentous celebration and whatnot. Then they go to more speaking engagements, showing Sean, you know, Harvard and Northeastern University and whatnot, and, you know, really speaking about wrongful convictions. That's another point that I want to bring up about the brother, is so we've already discussed, you know, something like the spirit and the humility and all this. Another point is he's not a person who's about me. You know, a situation like this has come, and he could easily point all attention on himself and say, you know, woe is me, and y'all should pity me, and look at me and this situation I've been through, and wouldn't you help me? And, you know, da-da-da-da. But the very first statements that we see him making after this thing is pointing to the fact of other people and making note of how this thing is bigger than him. And there's many other people who are still, you know, locked behind enemy lines, right? So I also want to speak to that. That's like selflessness. You know what I mean? Where as soon as you know you get free, you are trying to use whatever light that is on you to turn around and make sure that those behind you, you know, is able to get free as well, or at least get attention on their cases and whatnot. So then the next thing from there, you know, of course, they show the Innocence Network conference in Memphis. And you know, a lot of different people from around the country, and that was a good thing to see. Another moment of, you know, seeing you know, the camaraderie and just seeing him in a good position, and you know, speaking. And once again, as we've mentioned before with the speech impediment, that was another point where, you know, he goes up there and he had the crowd in the palm of his hands. You know what I mean? You know, he's halfway some comedy. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? He got jokes, right? And you know, got a charming personality and a real relatable way to be able to talk to a crowd, and he ain't shy. You know, as he said, jumping out the plane and everything, he's, you know, he said, I ain't got no fear in me. And so you see that there's no fear of crowds or whatever, a very natural presence and all that. So, you know, all that was very beautiful to see. And
one point there, Jay, just the figure they flashed on the PowerPoint, 3,000 plus 30, it was like 3,500 years or something like that.
I was gonna say that too, right? When they got on stage, right? 3,500 something combined years, because as they was calling people up, they would be like, you know, Timmy Johnson, you know, 42 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, Sheila Jones, you know what I mean? 32 years, you know, and so
One of the less of the times.
What happened?
I said out of all the people released, Sean was actually one of the lesser times. Like he didn't even do as much time as the majority that was released. That's the crazy part.
I was gonna say, in terms of wrongful convictions, yeah. From my experience, people who are like in the so first of all, if you're wrongful conviction and you get out like in the 10 numbers, the 10s and the teens, you are considered like a golden child. Lucky you. Okay. If you're in the 20s, right? You're 20, you know, 20 years or so, is whatever. Then it's like the OGs, those who did 30 and 40 and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? Shit. Arnie King, well, that's a different story. But you know, a lot of these people, dude who just got out that they did the thing, he did 42 years, right? I'm 49. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole grown person's life. You know, I mean, so in any event, boom.
Yep. Real quick. So I gotta step out, but I was trying to catch it on my phone, but it's saying the event ended. I won't be able to log on if I get on my phone.
No, it shouldn't. It says it's still recording. Maybe only because I don't know what's happening. I have a limit on my recording, so it might, but what it'll do is it says it goes over, but it'll still be there, and then I delete something else.
No, I had to step outside for a minute. I wanted to still be on the conversation from my phone.
Yeah, you should be able to, and if nothing, if you do have any trouble signing back in, then hit up Brother Jamal or something, and we'll figure something else out if we got to pull you in on the cell phone or something.
All right, bro. Yes, sir.
All right. Yep. All right. So I hope I hope we don't have a technological glitch and he's able to enter back in. But other point I just wanted to make while at the conference, and one of the things that he said, and this is a powerful thing, and you'll hear this as a common refrain from any black man, you know, with good sense. And Sean talks about the power of women, right? And in his life, you know, he talked about the women in his life, some of whom are not directly connected to him, but, you know, directly connected to the case, but, you know, now have a, you know, they are part of the historical record. And that was, of course, you know, Rosemary Scapicchio, of course, the other young lady who worked with her, whose name escapes me. Judge Ball, of course, who ended up
Jean. I think her first name is Jean.
Jean, okay, Jean. And Judge Ball, obviously Eileen Murphy, his godmama, as he calls her, right? And then of course his own mother, right? And of course, if he went on, he probably would have included some more because of course he got a sister in there, right? He got his woman in there, you know what I'm saying? And I'm sure many others and whatnot. But as black men, often too, look, as a black man who's been critiqued as not appreciating black women or even attacking black women, I can stand here and tell you right now, well, first of all, that ain't true. But I and any other right-thinking brother recognizes the the critical place of black women in our lives, in his case, his moms. And then also too, just the overall nurturing quality of women in general, which in this case now extended to several white women who did not have to help, who, listen, we have trauma. In many other cases, white women have also been hurtful. But in this particular case, this particular set of white women was helpful and part of a healing, right? So, we got to recognize whatever it is, but I just thought that was another thing and another example of him where, he's on stage. He could have been like, ain't I wonderful? Ain't I fantastic? You know what I mean? And he took another opportunity to shout out and show some love to others. And, that's, you got to recognize, other folks. Boom. Then down to the now back to the crib and family cookout, all the friends and everything. And then that was a beautiful scene. And then it really ends with kind of the cliffhanger, the unsolved mystery guy's voice comes in, and really it ends on a cliffhanger of really that this is a missed opportunity to just clear it. So here we are, the end of this thing. We've been on a roller coaster. We've been up, we've been down, we cried. Me and Darrell almost punched walls, and you know what I mean? It's an emotional roller coaster, and at the end, there's still no resolve, because at the end of the day, thank God he's out and he's doing good. He got all his marbles intact, but he has not been made whole because he has not been cleared, exonerated, acquitted. Not just, oh, we're not going to prosecute. I think they call that, Cornell, you might know, null prosecutore or something like that, which is just basically, we're not going to prosecute. But no, they need the full boat, the acquittal, the not guilty, the exoneration. You ain't had nothing to do with that. We need that. And so let's talk about the last little part of that, and then we're gonna end with next steps and how we do it. And I could tell y'all right now too, I think that what we're gonna do is we're gonna extend this for one more day, which we talked about a bit. We're gonna extend this for one more day, and we're gonna have an official meeting about what do we do now, and that's gonna be the entirety. The whole thing is gonna be what do we do now. You know what I mean? What folks are willing to do. We're going to do a planning meeting after all this. All right. So now, boom. So let's chop up this last part. Everybody chime in with a special invite to all those who may have not said anything as of yet. Please feel free to chime in. We on the last little section before we move into our, last little jump off. So please, anybody who has not spoken yet, please do so now.
So, hi, this is Kathy.
Hi.
Hi. So yeah, I mean, I think that the things I've met Sean a few times, and I was just really concerned that the way the DA's office dropped it on him, dropped it like, like we're not going to go through with it, but by the way, he's guilty. I just found that so offensive. And I think they did that because they knew that Rachel would drop it, and they wanted to give their narrative. And that sort of incredible. I've seen this again and again. This insistence that we did nothing wrong, and that just, I mean, that just bothers me. But also, like, there was another case where this guy was found not guilty. It was a black man, and he was developmentally delayed. He was like easy to set up. This was in another state, and they looked at the guy that got him, and like half his cases were overturned, and he was still working there. So my thing is, how can we do things like, so if it's a prosecutor or a detective, like these people that keep, there's probably, like, people know who the people that are doing people wrong are. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like we can't figure that out. So that's, I think, my thing is that there's no reason this couldn't happen again, like, and couldn't be happening right now. So that's, I think, what I find really scary.
Oh, make no mistake, it is happening right now, whether or not there is bad police work or a wrongful conviction about to go down, or certainly the fact that there are people right now who are still serving time for wrongful convictions. Absolutely. And yeah, we definitely need to figure out some sort of strategy to prevent things like this from happening in the future, but also to investigate everything that has already happened and get anybody that we got who's still behind enemy lines, home.
Absolutely, yeah.
Anybody else who has not spoken, please, please, please chime in. Anybody else who has not spoken, please, please, please.
Well, I'll just say this. I'm just glad that, we were able to see this, and whoever brought this forward, whoever decided to bring this forward as a documentary, really gave us an insight of what really goes on behind these doors. And we really need to work together and to see how we can not have this happen again and continue to happen. And just seeing how sickening these people really are. Even though we think and we know about it, but just really seeing it just brings it out just like the full picture. And I even asked a cop what they thought about the Sean Ellis case, and they're all backing each other. And it's pretty sad. It's pretty sad. But at the end of the day, we know the truth. And well, we don't know the truth in the sense of like who killed Mulligan. But we know that the truth is out there, and only they will know. And I just hope the family does figure out and pushes forward so that that the Sean they can really see that Sean didn't do it. So that's it.
Thank you. Anybody else who hasn't spoken? There's a couple more folks on here who haven't said anything all night, or very few. Also, don't feel like if you just only said one little thing that you can't. I'm just talking about, basically we have these conversations and it's a lot of the same people talking, namely me, trying to get my money's worth on this Zoom account. So y'all please chime in, folks who haven't spoken at all or spoken that much. I just want to make sure that we have an open forum and folks, have an opportunity to be heard. We want your perspective and your opinion. That's why we do a community forum. Other than that, I could have just called up a bunch of my friends on the phone.
Well, a couple of things, Jamal. One, I could say, like, after viewing the documentary and how it was presented, I mean, it was brilliant. It was brilliant the way, just the moments that I think his name is Remy captured. I hope there's some accolades in the future for him definitely we'll see some more work, because this was brilliant. This was, I mean, he captured everything, and he got his story straight across, exactly the way I would assume that he wanted. Because in my mind, just as a somebody that has, no connection to anything, but just watching it as an outsider, like I'm fully committed to Sean's innocence, and that there was a bunch of dirtbags running around doing whatever the hell they wanted, but they had badges and guns. Secondly, I think Sean's leadership qualities, we haven't heard the last from him, and he could go quietly into the night and just say, you know what, I'm off the scene, I'm out of jail, I'm just going to live my life peacefully. But he has too much, there's too much in him, too much leadership, too much, caring about others. He's going to come back, and he's going to be something. He's going to be somebody to watch. He's going to be a star, as long as he probably can't stick around the streets of Boston, but you know what I mean? Because the bigger he gets, the more he's going to be a target. But you could see that he has some serious leadership in him. And thirdly, I think this also underscores, like somebody was asking the question, well, what can be done about it? What can be done about it? Your work and the work of a civilian review board has to be who steps in, because you're not going to get it from the politicians. You're not going to get it from, the brass at the department. And the only one that's really the only entity that can have any power are entities like, Rosemary Scapicchio and a civilian review board, the power of the people.
Absolutely.
I would like to say something. I'm grateful that Sean Ellis and Remy told the story and was able to tell their story and tell Sean Ellis' story and do the documentary, because we see a lot of times, we hear right now about police officers killing Black and brown people, mainly Black people, but we don't see how the criminal justice system is, eroding Black communities through corruption and this kind of corruption. And they're using the criminal justice as some type of agitprop for them to do whatever they want. And like you said, Jamal, we're just monetary commodities to them. They could just have fun and smoke all the dope that they want and live this immoral lifestyle while trying to uphold this propaganda that they're just and they're bringing morality into society. But at the same time, they're undermining it and they're undermining justice. And I think, I'm grateful that we are having this discussion, these analytical discussions that you guys have brought forward about how, the corruption is deeper than just, police killing. Sometimes it's, that's sometimes one of the worst case scenarios, but also people who's pleading guilty to crimes they never commit. That is, injustice. People who's in jail for decades or even 1 minute for crimes they didn't commit. And everything that we see is going on that's continuously oppressing and putting communities in despair.
Absolutely.
There was also some research that came out recently, and it said that Black men were charged a lot harder for the same thing, which I think is an attempt to get plea bargains. So you get more, that drives the mass incarceration, because if you're facing, first degree or nothing, you might be willing to plea bargain down. But if you're not, so yeah.
And I mean, and not for nothing too, that's not even when you said like, like new, that's not new, that's a long time. And also too, in the pleas, when they do a plea, let's say you're a white man, they offer you a plea bargain. All of a sudden you murder, they might plea you down manslaughter and give you 5 years. With us, they plea us down, but they like still plea you down to like 15 years or something. You know what I mean? It's like even what they are giving us as the option of the softer stick, even that option is still harder than what somebody else would get. And I mean, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, a lot of times the devil is in the details.
Exactly.
Definitely.
To what Whitey was saying earlier, one thing that stuck out to me was about how that very frank conversation Scapiccio had with him at the end, where it was like, do you want to push this? Because if you did push this, I wouldn't want you to stay in Boston. I want to move you out, and you know, I don't want you to be able to get pulled over, and they could do some funny stuff because we know they would do that. And just for her to have to keep it that real, and just to say, like, even though they don't, you know, they're not gonna push this right now, but if you push back, they will go with all full force of their thing. It's just that intimidation factor that stood out to me, that it was really just, you know, a super maneuver to try to prevent him from seeking any type of justice, because they left it hanging out there where they could change their mind. You know what I mean? If the players changed and the right circumstances presented themselves. And I thought that was real, that really stood out.
Yeah, we definitely need to ask some questions in terms of legally now, you know, like what can be done realistically, like what could be done and whatnot, because you know, we don't know. But yeah, you know, this definitely brought up a bunch of safety and security concerns for me. We've talked about it a little. I'm not gonna harp on it here because I don't want to give it so much thrift. But
are we gonna touch on the, and since if anybody else is talking, I would like for them to talk, of course. But I was like, are we gonna touch on the Greater Boston piece for Rachel? Because I was talking of Crystal about that earlier, and I really don't want to leave without talking about that, because to me that was the part where I was, you know, distasteful the most in the whole story. Like I took all the resilience out of me before this movie ended.
Okay, well, I mean, you know, so we were just chopping up this last chunk, but I mean, I think really we about to go into open kind of closing forums anyway, in terms of anything, you know, whatever, everybody can bring up whatever they want. So that might be a good point, unless anybody else has anything to say before we go there. That might be a good point. Let's chop that up.
I think with Rachel Rollins, I voted for Rachel Rollins, and I agree with Slim. I was very disappointed. I wasn't surprised. However, it's one of those things like you're disappointed, but you're surprised. It's like one of those things like you kind of know that there's not much for her to say. It's like, what is she going to do now? How, if we're able to pressure her, but I won't compare her to William Gross. I don't think she's comparable to William Gross at all. If anything, I think William Gross sabotaged her a little bit. I had no idea what was the point of him going to her house to make it, you know, kind of to sabotage her image. Like, yeah, you're not going to be better than us. You're one of the boys, or we have you on a leash. That's how I looked at it a little bit when he went over to her house. But you know, in close proximity, did that press conference that was kind of undermining what she was going to do, or what they thought she was going to do once she get in office.
I truly just felt like before that whole scene, I was so excited because I felt like she was gonna be that person that changes the democracy, pretty much just says, you know, just stands out. Because that's why I'm pretty sure, Marshall, that's why you voted for her, because she had that demeanor, like, you know, I'm not gonna be quiet when I'm on any stage. You get what I'm saying? I'm gonna speak up for what's right, and I'm gonna speak up to change things. And then when she got on there, I don't know if it was because she thought Jim was like the other people, or whatever the situation was, because of the platform, but it was like she finally got that seat. And the first time she ever got that seat, this is how her demeanor was. Her demeanor was like she almost wasn't going to fight for Sean. So it brought me to a point where it was like, yeah, I understand what you mean. She's not as, like gross. I understand exactly what you mean. But it does come to a point where it's like, wow, if you're gonna work within the system, I almost can't even rock with you either, because it's just like you're not even gonna say nothing at this point. You're not gonna, this is that I think the people who did the docuseries really zoomed in to show you that everyone who gets in that position is compromised, and that's how they left the story to me.
All right. Well, so I'm gonna say this from my view and looking at it. Once again, I hope folks know my brain enough. Like, once again, I be trying to not really care like what people say, whatever. I try to like analyze it, take myself out of it, look back in like a logical perspective. So logically, that interview was like right after she got inaugurated, right? Okay. So I think what y'all might look at as kind of trepidation to deal with the case, I think was really caution, because she just got in the office and she ain't even looked at no files. She ain't got no information or none of that. So now that it's been, several years later now, two years, about almost 2 years later, now is the time that we say, okay, so now what's up with that? Now that you've had time to be in there, now that you can look at the cases and all that, did you, whatever. I think in that case, you could even see when he asked the question, she kind of like took a moment to, and then go in, because I think that I'm willing to give her the benefit of doubt in this moment, because I really think that what she was trying to do was be cautious and not make any statement without any evidence, and she was trying to just kind of be like, yo, boom, but but I think that we need to ask her now.
I think that's a good point, Jamal. I mean, I think that what's hard is when we forget the group dynamics that are often at play in situations like these. And again, I will stick to sometimes you got to pick and choose your battle. I mean, Brother Muhammad talked earlier about time and your way to get somewhere. I don't think she's doing that, but I think that she's being strategic about how she responds and what she responds to. And maybe it's a romanticized vision, but her action seems to think that she's very thoughtful. It seems like when a lot of people are talking to her, they're playing checkers, but she's playing chess, to me, sometimes.
Yeah, I would concur.
I could see that. I could see the angle. But I just hope you guys can understand what I seen too from my vision, my perception from it. Because honestly, I really thought that was the most distasteful part of the whole story, because she gave me so much resilience, and then she was talking that ish, and then when it came down to when she's finally there and they spoke on Sean, because even when Sean was looking at her talking, he had so much resilience in him, like she's gonna exonerate this case. And then next thing you know, when she finally got to that platform, she's finally gonna see she could talk at the Papples and all that, she didn't say anything on it. So I understand what everyone's saying. Maybe I'm impatient, I'm impulsive, but I really felt like that was distasteful to me personally.
Well, no, I can say this, man. I mean, some of what you're saying is valid, because I've been speaking not so much on Rachel's defense, but I've known Rachel long before she got in office, long before she got this seat. I've probably known her for about 10 years. So I got a different sense of where she's coming from. I also have a lot of good people that I know who are defense attorneys who are very upset with her right now, because she's not keeping all of the promises that she made around, what she was going to be taken off of that prosecutor list, in some of the cases she was going to be throwing out. Even if you look at the drug lab cases, a lot of that stuff is still lingering. Defendants are still having to go to jail. There's still a major issue with how these police are using these warrants and these what do you call it? When they have informants, just the whole tracking of it. It's and the SJC has ruled on a lot of this stuff. So what I think Rachel is doing, if you really watch, I think she's putting a lot of this on the courts to make decisions for her. So when the court says something heavy-handed, now everybody has to follow it. So she's kind of, she's not going as hard as she said she was going to go, but she's not a sellout. I know for sure. I can tell you for sure she's not a sellout because like I said, my radar I respect it, and I've known her before she got the job. So I'm the jury's out. I'm trying to kind of see how this thing plays out and where it goes, because realistically, the fact that she got such a mandate when she ran says that she has the potential to take a higher office. So everybody in the political scheme of things, they know that. They saw that. So they're taking shots. They're looking to bury her. They're nervous because, there may be a bigger play where she can do even more things than she's doing right now.
Also, I just want to say, we just watched what these cops will do to each other because I still think that those two detectives killed Mulligan, but that's neither here nor there. But, she has to tread very lightly in what she's doing because it could be her on the bad side of things, So you just have to be patient and just watch. That's all we can do.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I went to her with a concern I had and about a systemic issue, and she was not receptive. And I'm having trouble getting past that. And honestly, I almost left this conversation when there was a lot of positive conversation about her. Because of that, I just did, because
I hear that.
I was, it was about protecting young people, and it was was not as receptive. She would have had to go against a lot of people, and she didn't. So that's where I'm at.
So here's the thing about that, once again, the way I try to approach things is like this, I too, I was supportive of her early on, and I haven't had a bunch of contact since either. I'm not necessarily, 8,000% feeling like rah rah shish boom bah, on some cheerleading thing either. And I've been disappointed in terms of police reform, in terms of things that I had hoped that we would have, she was inaugurated January 2nd, 2019. In my little mind, I thought we was gonna have this all figured out by Black History Month of 2019. You know what I mean? And it didn't work out like that. So I understand that. But what I deal with is, in future thing, is that I do know that as an activist, I lived under a mayor in Menino for 20 years that ran this like an emperor of Rome. I know that Dan Conley was the DA for 16 years. And he, when he leave a room, you could smell sulfur. And all I'm gonna say is that, when it comes to the benefit of the doubt, I don't expect her to, y'all didn't elect Jamal Crawford for DA. She ain't gonna do what I do, right? She's gonna do what she do by the best notion of her brain and all this. But once again, like Cornell said, I'm not ready yet to call her a sellout. Has she made all decisions that I would have liked or da? Absolutely not. Have I had moments of disappointment? Absolutely. But what I am willing to say is, she beats the goddamn alternatives from every alternative that I've ever seen in my life. So this is about our best shot that we've ever had. And I'm just, if anybody was work wittable, I think it's her. And what we got to do is whatever issue you had and whatever issues, me, I'm gonna keep trying. Like I'm not so confident that we can win other folks over that we've had in this discussion, like a Gross. I am confident that she is definitely more work wittable than the other people. So that's what I'm gonna say, just in all fairness, without campaigning for anybody.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you
That
were
was
done,
it.
Jamal.
That
Jamal,
was it.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead. That was it.
Oh, all right. No, I've known her. Shit, I've known her for about 30 years, to be honest, and she's really committed to what she says. But and I do agree with Slim, that the way that came off didn't look very good. But what we have to do, she's very much a measure twice, cut once before you cut once type of person. And I know her commitment is where it lies. I know she has family members that have been through the system, that, you know what I mean? I mean, her commitment to even come out and say the stuff she did on the campaign trail, she, you know, she could have been cutting her own throat, not even giving herself a chance. It was just that, you know, people's appetite was really wet for the stuff she was saying, and they were ready to go. But I think we have to be careful that systematic change, there's three prongs um in the move right now. One of them is Gross, one of them is the mayor, and the other one is her. And you also have the police union, that's kind of another piece of the puzzle. But so change is not going to come overnight. I know the police hate her, and you know, and she's not afraid of that. um but she's still standing there in the storm. So I would say more like, you know, Jamal's type of thinking, uh, that give the benefit of the doubt for now, but you know, now her, you know, she's waist deep in it now, and maybe now things are going to start to happen, especially since this thing has kind of, now it's in people's faces, and now she's going to get a little more momentum, like she had when she got elected by, you know, 80% margin. So I honestly feel like there's she still has another shoe to drop, but it's not going to be as quick as people would like, only because they're fighting every step of the way against her, and it's some very powerful entities.
Yeah. If she smokes this judge from Somerville again, is gonna be a wrap for her. Then I think that's definitely, she'll have some power, and we need to be pushing back with her, because that's Middlesex County. And I don't know if y'all know this, but there, you know, in a lot of the counties, that competition, and there's always been a competition in the Middlesex County Court and the Suffolk County Court. So that may be wishful thinking. But on an unrelated note, Jamal, I hope you do this for the next doc that's out, called 40 Years a Prisoner. If you haven't seen it already, it's going to be on HBO.
Nah. Well, who is that? Is that a modern joint, or that's
It's
a
going to be on,
historical
it
piece?
starts, I think, December 8th or December 4th. It's about Operation Move. And I don't know if it's
Oh
Ramona
yeah, that's what I
Africa's
was
son or
saying. Yeah,
Sam
that's it.
Africa's son.
Yeah, I got you. I got you. Yeah, we may. I got to tell you though too, not for nothing. This for me has been exhausting and daunting to do an event every night, and I thank everybody who has participated, because I'm assuming it's exhausting and daunting for you as well. You know, we really been averaging like hour and a half, 2.5 hours, you know, every damn night. Obviously, the first session we had, you know, got away from us because, you know, we were doing introductions and da 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 da. Second session didn't record, technical difficulties, what have you. And then I believe, did I get the third? Well, I believe I got the third, and then everything since then. So it's all on, pardon me, my YouTube page, as will this be. And boom, we will go on. So I think with that, unless anybody else has any more points to make, you know, we can begin to wrap this up. Anybody else with any final points that they want to make, please
Yeah.
go full.
I just in case, you know, everybody's not on tomorrow, or if I'm not on tomorrow, I just wanted to thank you once again, Jamal, and Mosque 11, and everybody who participated with this discussion, and thank you for your analytical input and breakdown of each episode. I think I've learned a lot, and I look forward to see what comes out of it.
Give thanks. Hey, and two, not for nothing, too. Let's do this, because when I record these things, and when I'm done, you know, when I download it, it gives me the video, to give me an audio thing without the video, and it also gives me the chat session. So that keeps a decent little record. Could everybody do a favor and please put your email in the chat so that way we can remain in contact? I know I have everybody here on Facebook, but I don't believe I have everybody's email. Yvonne, you sent me your email, which I did receive that. Cornell, obviously, you don't have to do that. I have yours. Um, but other people like Ari, I don't think I have yours. Whitey, I don't think I have yours. Even Brother Jamal, I don't think I got an email on you. Yeah, there you go. Boom. So yeah, folks who Crystal, I got yours, but I don't know if you have a new one or anything. I want to make sure I got the most recent one on you. So folks, if you think I don't have it, obviously Jake, I don't need that, blah, blah, but just folks, just send your email in if you think I don't have it or whatever, just to make sure that you got it, and it'll be part of the chat, and then I'll be able to get that, and so we can maintain in contact. I'll add y'all to the Blackstonian list, and when this stuff goes out. All right. So with that, we can get down to the beginning of the end. All right, so once again, I really would like to thank everybody for coming. I'm gonna mute everybody. Okay, yeah, there we go. All right, so I just want to thank everybody. I just muted everybody, so if you want to unmute, you can. But I just want to thank everybody for coming, and not for nothing, this being our final one. Thank everybody, for coming, through all of these different series and evenings and whatnot. I appreciate that. We've had great discussions. I think really we have done a very in-depth thing with a bunch of points that I don't think that in general, this was in-depth analysis in terms of when people are talking about like what's on, let's say, like I compared this to, a reality TV show, and then when you're done with the reality TV show, afterwards they have the TV show chopping up, the TV show just there. They're doing that all for like, fun and games. I think here we got to a lot of real points, and really dissecting a lot of really high level legal issues of race, history, as it relates to Boston, or just history in general. I mean, we covered a lot of bases here, and once again, at an average of an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, we probably got like over 10 hours of talk time. You know what I mean? So that that's pretty damn deep. This thing is a very worthy discussion, and once again, I could have did this just by myself and just, oh, Jamal Crawford breaks it all down. But no, the better thing is when we crowdsource our information to get different people's perspectives, and we are made better all at once. Once again, to use the gumbo analogy, look, by myself, I'm just broth. Broth is all right, you know what I mean? But broth is better when you start throwing more stuff in it, you know what I mean? And all of us together have made the collective dish better. And dare I say that, even though we did it in an informal manner and blah blah blah, without high production quality and value, I think that anybody who ends up seeing this on YouTube or whatever, I really believe that the information and the level of discussion and debate that we had, and also the level of respectability. We were able to talk about all this without having major disagreements and and getting ugly with each other. So this is, I think, a great example of how people from all variety of walks of life can come together and have these doggone discussions. And it was a beautiful thing. So I'm happy to have had it happen. I'm glad that y'all participated in it.
I'm glad you said that, because that's a major point. That's
absolutely
like DJ Khaled. That's a major key.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Because, and as I've been sitting here and quiet and listening, that's that's a very, very strong indicator that the time is up on this way of law enforcement and policing. Like the gig is up. And we have our critiques, of everybody on here, you know what I'm saying? And I'm proud of that too, because it didn't get disrespectful. Especially the last contribe about Rachel, you know what I'm saying? But what somebody like Rachel needs is a cadre of citizens that's willing to criticize from a patriotic way, right? Like I'm on your squad, but you're not gonna just do anything, and I'm just a yes person. Like you deserve that level of accountability too. That keeps you in line, and that is extremely important to this conversation because not to belabor the point, but the reason why she can't get done everything she said she wanted to do in a timely fashion and can't speak, freely, and has to measure her words to make sure that she doesn't say anything that she can't walk back, is because, quite frankly, we don't have enough support for her. Like, can she go out on a limb and say something crazy, but it be for the best interest of the people, and then we be there to back her up? You know what I'm saying? And that's what this conversation represents to me, is that conversation happening. Like, we can get everybody on the phone, everybody on the call. We ain't gotta agree, but on one thing. And let's say, for example, we're gonna protect Rachel. You know what I'm saying? We put her in the back room and talk to her, and we ain't really like that. But when we come up out of here, right? All for one for all. Like that's what's gotta be. That's what I think. I think that's what we've accomplished with this whole thing, Jamal. To kind of go dovetail on your point.
And so, not for nothing, and that brings us to the next thing right before we close. I'm gonna ask of everybody one more thing, which is that tomorrow, I would ask everybody to come back here, same bat time, same bat channel. Although now I don't know if I can extend it on Zoom, so stay tuned. Like, I think I'll probably have to make another Zoom link, so it won't be the same Zoom link that you've clicked in, because now this one is up, and when I shut this down, I don't think I could duplicate it, whatever, technical stuff. But I'll try to, I'm gonna have to make another Zoom link. But in any event, hopefully we can meet again tomorrow, and now we will go back through everything that I have here, everything that you guys have, and now this is going to be the what now, what's next meeting. All right. In terms of what angles we want to attack, in terms of the various things that we agreed upon that we should do, from letter writing to pushing various legislation to conversations with Rachel Rawlins to conversations with William Gross, certain levels of research that we pointed to, like finding out, is this guy still on the force, or is he dead, or where is he? You know what I mean? Whatever. These type of things. So we have some research to do. We have some policy points to do. And anybody who's worked with me ever before knows that, I don't like to take these things and, all that. And then all we did was talk a gang of, stuff. There needs to be some tangibles out of this. So, and usually also too, you'll find my misery. This is also too where you generally lose people. But
can I get a question in real quick?
Sure.
Is there, in your estimation, is there anything in the new new executive order that the mayor signed around police accountability? Are there any tools that can be used kind of as an outcome of this video, of this documentary, to either get it, like some of the things you said, to either get information or look into certain things or review certain things? How can we leverage some of that that's kind of in play right now?
Okay, exactly. So literally, myself and others, I don't want to give up too much on here, but myself and others, and not for nothing, we should link tomorrow or whatever, but I at least am in the process of writing a letter to the mayor that will be suggesting that he keeps on the task force group as like in an advisory capacity. Because the first thing I said when this thing came out was, God dog, you know, because clearly they've been done with it for a while. But I'm like, damn, man, if this thing would have came out 60 days earlier, boy, while we were in the middle of the task force, this would have changed the game in terms of, you know, I was on board, so I didn't miss much. But this brought up other nuances. Actually, let me write these things down actually now, since you got me talking about it. Write it down. So the nuances that it brought up is what we focused on a lot with the thing was, of course, civilian review and blah, 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 that type of thing. What this documentary brought up was the Bureau of Professional Standards. It also brought up that other thing. What did we say? What is the guy who was mad? Oh, the anti-corruption unit.
Yeah, anti-corruption, anti-criminal unit.
Yep, anti-corruption. Just got up.
The overtime stuff.
Well, that goes into the thing. So what I'm saying is that me, smart guy, me, Mr. Police guy, right? I'm very familiar with the internal affairs. I'm very familiar with internal affairs, right? So much so that I, in the civilian review, that's why I made the distinction, because internal affairs is something where, you know, it's a complaint that's generated internally. It could begin externally, and somebody makes a complaint, and then, you know, now they're doing an internal investigation and it goes to internal affairs. But for civilian review, I was basically saying that anybody could basically take a look at anything, right? So it doesn't necessarily like, so let's say you go home on the news tonight and we see officer beats the crap out of you know, young Tony Johnson, okay? Tony Johnson, because he's young and scared, he might not file a complaint. Okay? But you, as a civilian on the civilian review board, could go in and say, hey, I saw that, I want to see that thing. Tony Johnson, what's up with that? Tony Johnson doesn't even need to file a complaint. The action itself is complainable, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay? Damn him. I don't know what he's doing. He might be an immigrant. He might have a warrant. He might have a crazy baby mama in Texas. He don't want to find out where he's at. I don't know what his story is about why he doesn't want to file. It's none of our business. But the fact of this happened was still a crime. You dig? And so we're still going to deal with the crime that happened. Okay, so once again, had I known what I know now, I knew that there was an Office of Professional Standards, but once again, we just weren't looking at it with scrutiny. I knew that there was an anti-corruption unit, but we did not look at that with scrutiny at all. And I got to tell you, anti-corruption unit, in my mind, I didn't know that that was an internal thing. If somebody would have said anti-corruption unit to me, I would have thought that these are the guys who are busting corporate crime, and you dig?
Well, and just to go back on that, Jay, like that's one of those things too, where it's like we don't even know what their function is, because their function doesn't even interface with the public per se. They go straight to the feds with their stuff, but it's still helpful to know that they exist, you know.
And once again, the policies that, because you know, I'm a realist guy, so obviously if I wanted to do something in that arena, obviously I can't see the cases in that, can't see the files in it, but I would try to do policy that addresses it. So for instance, to make sure that in that case, if they are the good guys and they're like, yo, we got a dirty cop on the hook right here, and then they can get derailed from wherever, I want to, policy-wise, I want to make sure that they have the proper tools at their disposal to nail corruption, and that they do not have any blockades in their way to get it. So I would have just handled it from a policy thing, right, to make sure that those people have everything at their disposal to make sure that they're doing their thing and that they are not blocked. Same thing,
because the case was
with the officer
IA, the case was passed to IA, who we know don't do their job. But if you, like you said, if we could codify that in policy where it's like, nah, You can't
just,
the case. The cases all have to run concurrently at the same time.
Internal affairs should be like, you gave a civilian the finger. Okay, you called somebody a stinking ass bitch. Okay, all right. If you are known to screw children, take cocaine from Johnny and put it on Paul, if you were known to be, in an organized crime type of, endeavor, then yeah, no, there should not be the ability to like bump it back down. In other words, so and in the Office of Professional Standards, this was one of the things that we did address in the task force heavily, because everything, well, not everything, but a lot of things in the BPS, they might say, oh, this, that, the other, but then you didn't define what is the definition of this, that, and the other. I need definitions. So I need you to flesh that language out and have a little bit more clarity. So if you have a Bureau of Professional Standards, great. What are those standards? Is it like clearly stated? Because clearly these people were not conducting themselves. They weren't conducting themselves in professional standards that could be attributed to like a nightclub, like let alone officers of the damn law. You know what I mean? There's nowhere that you could do what these folks were doing. So if they are in fact the Bureau of Professional Standards, well, damn it, we need a definition and an update clearly, and a strict adherence. But in any event, y'all, all right, we've been going on super long. Let me end this thing. All right. I want to say, my little things that I be saying normally, which is, I hope you had a great day today. I hope you were great today. Have a great rest of your night. Go do something great. Be great. And tell somebody you love them. Better yet, show somebody some love. Show some love to a youth or an elder. And as always, please push past the pain to the power. And as always, please choose righteousness over ratchetness. And as always, please don't fall for the banana in the tailpipe. And before Brother Jamal leads us out in prayer, I'm gonna pray to White Jesus Jake.
Yeah.
God gave his only begotten son.
You know what I'm saying? All right, so go ahead and Jamal. So give us a real prayer. We ain't dealing with these false idols.
That's not how I usually go into the mind of prayer, but thank you, Jamal.
You're welcome, man. That's what
Everybody, please assume the position of prayer that is most comfortable for you. And we pray, dear Heavenly Father, regardless of land, language, or label, we know that you are one. And there where two or more amongst each other dwell in unity, we know that you are in the midst. Dear Heavenly Father, there's more than two of us on this call, so that we know for surety that you are with us. We are of diverging opinions. We are from different walks of life, different ages, different experiences, but here for one cause. And that is the call, that is the universal cry of justice, that is the beckoning call of the end of the enemy's world. We ask that you continue to use us through this vehicle, through this medium, to have a conversation, to continue to unravel the bricks of injustice that have bound our people in their homes, in their minds, in their communities, locked out of financial empowerment, locked out of political empowerment, locked out of mental and spiritual upliftment. We ask that you continue to allow us to be a part of the solution and not a part of the problem. We ask that we continue to dwell in this one mind, in this one spirit, looking for one goal, which is the answer to the injustice as we continue this conversation through tomorrow and beyond. As we pray, we say, Amen.
Amen.
All right, peace, y'all. We did it. All right. And once again,
Peace.
for real,
Yeah.
this was beautiful. Everybody chiming in and all these days that we did it. This is a monumental thing. And now we have our final mission, which is we will meet again mañana, and we will chop up what next, what now, and we will move forward. And then other future plans, as y'all remember, I talked about, trying to get more cats on here, wrongfully convicted and so on and so forth. So we'll keep it moving, y'all. I couldn't have did it without you. God bless everybody who came here, and one love.
All right, peace.
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 Peace.